Chapter 1 After a good night's sleep, he struck it rich. No, he really didn't have any. Zhang Luo felt his head spinning. He opened his eyes and met a pair of cold eyes. The woman had delicate, cold features. She was wearing a short black dress that showed off her slender figure, and she was wearing 10-centimeter heels. Every move she made revealed her arrogance, making her seem unattainable. Did he wake up? Zhang Luo immediately wrapped himself up tightly and looked at her warily. What do you want? This was the woman who had forced herself on him last night. Wen Ning's gaze swept over Zhang Luo, and she handed him a golden card. This is compensation for you. I'm sorry, last night was not what I wanted. Have you seen enough? Zhang Luo took the golden card from the woman's hand. A bank card? Well, there are 8 million yuan in it, enough for you to live for a while. If you run out of money, you can come to me. Give me your phone. Zhang Luo handed the woman in front of him the phone blankly. Wen Ning moved her finger, saved her contact information, and then returned the phone to Zhang Luo. Her tone remained indifferent as she said, "This is my personal contact information. If you don't have any money, you can find me." Oh, okay. Zhang Lu nodded, clenching the gold card in his hand. With this money, he would definitely be able to get his grandmother the operation. After the door opened, a woman in black, who looked to be in her early 20s, came in. She respectfully said, "President Wen, the things are ready." Wen Ning said, "This is some new clothes for you. How old are you this year? What's your name?" Zhang Luo whispered, 18. My name is Zhang Luo. Wen Ning let out a sigh of relief. As long as she's an adult. Although she looks quite young. Wen Ning asked again, "Well, where is your home?" "I'll take you back." "No need. I work here to earn money for college expenses." He got into God University with the top score in his major, and his tuition and accommodation fees are all free. He just needs to earn some living expenses now. His grandmother is not in good health, so he works as a waiter in a hotel to earn money. He never expected this to happen. When Ning asked again, "You're going to college, which school?" Zhang Luo answered, "The acting department of the Imperial University." When Ning nodded with satisfaction, "Not bad, you can contact me for anything, or nothing." After that, when Ning turned and left, and with her left several female bodyguards and the female assistant by her side. Zhang Luo quickly got dressed, picked up her phone, looked at the several missed calls on it, and dialed. Luo, where are you? Grandma called you several times but you didn't answer. Why didn't you come home last night? A concerned voice came through the phone. Zhang Luo remembered everything that had happened last night, his ears still red and bleeding, and stammered, "Grandma, I worked overtime last night and fell asleep. I just got up and finished work today. I'll go home tonight." "Okay, then go home early. Grandma killed an old hen that doesn't lay eggs for you, and I'll make you some chicken soup tonight to help you recover." "Okay, Grandma, I'll hang up now, I have to go to work." Zhang Luo just hung up the phone when Lu, the receptionist, pointed at him and yelled, "Zhang Luo, are you slacking off again? You're an hour late today, and you'll be fined 100 yuan. Zhang Luo explained, "Lu, I didn't mean to be late. I overslept, but I won't do it again." "Overslept? You sure can sleep. You're supposed to start work at 8 o'clock, and you overslept. Deducting 100 yuan is considered light. I haven't deducted your entire salary for this month. If you dare to be late again next time, you won't get paid for this month. Do you hear me?" Before Lu Meng could touch Zhang Luo, she was stopped by someone else, and the force on her wrist was very strong. Lu Meng's pain was excruciating, and she looked up and asked, "Who are you? How dare you stop me?" Wen Ning let go of Lu Meng's hand and said coldly, "You hit your own employee?" "He was late, I just wanted to teach him a lesson. This is not the first time, shouldn't people who don't work hard be taught a lesson?" Lu Meng pointed at Zhang Luo and said. Zhang Luo whispered and explained, I was only late for the first time, I've never been late before, because..." Zhang Luo glanced at the cold Wen Ning and wanted to say something but stopped. Yesterday she was clearly not like this, she was very enthusiastic, taking off his clothes, and letting him hold her waist and let him touch. Zhang Luo's face became redder and redder. An 18-year-old boy who has never even been in a relationship, how could he have experienced something like this? "How dare you argue?" Lu Meng glared at Zhang Luo, "If you dare to argue again, I'll fire you immediately." When Ning's eyes darkened, "Fired? I didn't know that, do you have this kind of power at the front desk?" Lu Meng's attitude was arrogant. And who are you? It is my right to fire whoever I want. This is the Tianyu Hotel. Wen Ning turned her head and said, Suchi, call the manager of the hotel over. Yes. You think our manager is someone you can call whenever you want? I advise you to mind your own business. This person is under my command, and I can do whatever I want with him. Lu Meng pointed at Jiang Luo, extremely arrogant. Even if I beat him up today, you can't do anything about it. Wen Ning protected Jiang Luo behind her. Who gave you the right? Lu Meng said arrogantly, Managerly gave it to me. After a while, a middle-aged man with a pot belly and glasses on his face hurriedly walked over. When he saw Wen Ning, he immediately bowed his head, with a respectful attitude. Wen always. Wen always? Which one always? Lu Meng was dumbfounded. Could it be the legendary Wen always, the chairman of their hotel? How is that possible? Wen always is a very busy person. How could he come here? What did she just do? Lu Meng was scared and swallowed her saliva. Wen Ning said coldly, Zhang Hui, your people are trying to move my people, so you'll have to deal with it. Manager Zhang glanced at Jiang Luo behind Wen Ning and said, Manager 1, is he one of yours? Isn't he one of your waiters? He's very handsome, and you hired him yourself. He's very cheap, only 3,000 yuan a month. As expected, college students are cheap. Wen Ning took Jiang Luo's wrist and said, he's one of mine. Manager Li stared in shock, his pupils dilated, and he pushed his glasses on his face. Rumor had it that President Wen didn't like men, but I never imagined that she would like this kind of young college boy. Lu Meng, you dare to touch President Wen's man, you don't want to live anymore. Manager, I was wrong, I didn't know, please give me another chance. Lu Meng humbly begged, and looked at Jiang Lu again, please, Jiang Lu, can you talk to President Wen? Jiang Luo shook his head and continued to hide behind Wen Ning. This person had bullied him a lot and deducted his salary a lot. In the future, whoever in the same industry dares to hire her will be an enemy of my Wen's group. The domineering voice fell. Jiang Luo secretly glanced at the woman next to him. She was very beautiful, but as cold as the snow lotus on an iceberg. He silently withdrew his hand. Chapter 22 Wen Ning, can you help me? Manager Li nodded repeatedly, Mr. Wen, you are right, there is no need for this kind of person to stay with us, I will fire her immediately. Wen Ning turned back and asked softly, are you hurt? No, thank you. Jiang Lu shook his head, although he was about 1.85 meters tall, which was a head taller than Wen Ning, his face still looked very young. Was the money I gave you not enough? Why do you still want to work here? Jiang Luo lowered his head. There were still almost 2 months left in the summer vacation, and he was bored at home, so he wanted to earn some more money to pay for his grandmother's treatment. Wen Ning asked softly, your grandmother is sick? Do you need my help? Thanks, but no. After thanking her, Jiang Luo continued to go to the door on duty. He was very handsome, and everyone had to take a second look before entering. What a handsome young man, so young. How old is this young man? Is he an adult? Why don't you add me on WeChat? A few scantily clad girls walked up to Jiang Luo. Jiang Luo took a few steps back in shock and whispered, I don't have a phone. No? That's a shame. I wanted to add you on WeChat. Give me your phone number, and I'll take you out in my fancy car when I'm free. Jiang Luo shook his head again. I forgot. Sister Nuo, I can see that he's just being rude. Never mind, let's go. The woman next to her gave Jiang Lu a look. He's just a good-looking waiter. What will he ever amount to? He'll just be working here for the rest of his life. Jiang Lu retorted quietly. I'm only working here part-time. I'm going to university soon. You? All the good-looking guys get really bad grades. How many points did you get? Did you get 300 points? Jiang Lu, Science, 726. And I came first in professional acting. What? You? You are the top scorer in this year's Imperial Capital College entrance exam? The expression on the white-clad woman next to him looked as if she had eaten a fly. How could it be? Just randomly meeting a waiter, or the top scorer in the college entrance exam, and he looks so handsome? You're lying, there's no proof, don't even try to fool us, the top scorer in this year's college entrance exam is surnamed Zhang. Jiang Luo directly threw the screenshot at the few people, silencing them. In the end, the few people glanced at each other and left in disgrace. Wen Ning watched from the side, a faint smile curling the corners of her mouth. She muttered to herself, this is not someone who will let anyone bully him. Zhang Luo put his phone in his pocket and continued to stand in front of the door like a mascot. He felt that the woman next to him kept looking at him. Why was she looking at him? Zhang Luo felt uncomfortable being looked at, so he touched the tip of his nose and kept his eyes straight ahead. Su Qi whispered, Mr. Wen, are we going to the company? Your first meeting is starting in 30 minutes. Well, let's go. When Ning left the hotel with his bodyguard and assistant, got into an extended-length Rolls-Royce, and rolled down the window. Zhang Luo watched Wen Ning leave and stood there looking. Who exactly was she? She seemed so rich, and she gave him a card with 8 million yuan on it. Maybe they wouldn't meet again in the future. Zhang Luo picked up his phone, found Wen Ning's contact information, opened the dialog box, and hesitated for a long time before not sending a message. Managerly reminded him, from now on, I'll be watching out for you. Don't let him get hurt. He's Mr. Wen's man, remember? Yes, manager. The receptionists nodded in agreement. Jiang Lu had worked all day. He took the bus directly to the township streets of the imperial capital, walked for 2 or 3 minutes, turned a corner, and arrived at his home, a very ordinary house. Opening the door, he found it clean and tidy inside. A few old hens were in the enclosure nearby. This was an egg-laying hen that Grandma Jiang had specially raised to provide eggs for Zhang Luo. Zhang Luo called out with a smile, Grandma, I'm home. An old man came out of the house, smiling kindly. Luo is back. Grandma killed the old hen that doesn't lay eggs, and will make you some chicken soup. Zhang Luo said excitedly, Grandma, I earned a lot of money today, so I can take you to the doctor. Your illness can't be put off any longer. What illness? Grandma is fine. Keep the money you earned for yourself. You still have to go to college. It's going to cost a lot of money. My poor Luo is unwanted. He has to save up money to go to college on his own. Grandma Jiang wiped away a tear. They don't want you, but Grandma does. Zhang Luo was picked up by Grandma Jiang, but unfortunately, the Jiang parents already had a child and didn't want him, so they didn't take him with them. It was Grandma Jiang who raised Zhang Luo. Zhang Luo has always lived with his grandmother in the countryside, but he likes the pleasant climate there very much. Grandma, I'm not poor, I still have you with me. Zhang Luo helped her sit in a chair. Grandma, you rest first, I'll go make chicken soup. I read online that it's very easy to make, and I'll learn how to make it as soon as I can. You're still young, Grandma will make it for you. Grandma Jiang went to the kitchen to prepare the chicken soup for Zhang Luo. Just as she put the water in the pot and was about to add firewood, she suddenly felt dizzy and fell straight to the ground. Zhang Luo immediately went to the kitchen to help Grandma Jiang up. Grandma, what's wrong? No matter how she called, Grandma Jiang still didn't wake up. Zhang Luo panicked and called a few emergency numbers, but they were all busy and couldn't get through. Zhang Lu thought of his adoptive parents. Although Uncle John didn't like him, Grandma was their relative. Zhang Lu called John's father's phone. It rang for a long time, but there was still no answer. When he called again, the phone was hung up directly. The Jiang family was having a happy meal together, with a rich meal on the table. Jiang Hui looked up and asked, Dad, whose phone was that? It's endless, it's the third one already. John's father skillfully hung up the phone. Zhang Luo had called, nothing important, Xiao Hui, eat, this stewed pork elbow is good. Thank you, Dad. John's mother had a loving look on her face. Xiao Hui is going to college soon, we're preparing a big going to college banquet for you, it's next month. Zhang Hui smiled and said, Thank you, Mom, it's just a going to college banquet? This is a big event in your life, your father spent a lot of money to get you in, you can't let your father down. Don't worry, Mom, I won't. With my looks and talent, I'm sure I'll be a hit. Zhang Hui continued eating, surrounded by a group of people, afraid that he wouldn't get enough to eat. Zhang's mother kept putting food in his bowl. On the other side, Zhang Luo helplessly knelt on the ground hugging his grandmother. The Zhang family phone was completely unreachable, as was the emergency center. What should he do? Who else could he turn to now? Suddenly, a figure of someone appeared in Zhang Luo's mind. Wen Ning. He sent a message to Wen Ning with a try-it-out attitude. Can you help me? Chapter 3:3 I want you to be my fiancé. The reply came quickly. What happened? My grandmother suddenly had a seizure, and I can't get through to the hospital. I really don't know what to do. Can you help me? I don't want the money you gave me today. As long as it can save my grandmother, he doesn't want anything else. Send me your location, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Okay. Jian Lu sent his location and anxiously waited. It was already so late, would Wen Ning really come? If she doesn't come, what will happen to Grandma? Jian Lu helplessly knelt on the floor, fingers clenched together. Wen Ning came down the stairs and coldly ordered, Su Qi, take my medical team with you, follow me now, quickly, you have 2 minutes to get ready. President Wen, where are you going at this hour? Wen Ning quickly left the living room and went to the town to pick someone up. Yes. When did President Wen become so kind as to pick someone up? Who is this person at this hour of the night? Several black cars cut through the night sky and speed down the road. Jian Luo anxiously glanced at the clock on the wall. It had been 20 minutes, and Wen Ning still hadn't arrived. Is she not going to come? No one will come to help him, no one will come to save Grandma, no one. Jian Luo looked at Grandma in bed, her eyes red. Suddenly, a honking sound rang out, exceptionally loud in the quiet night sky. Wen Ning was wearing a black trench coat, her figure slender, and she was wearing high heels. She appeared in the doorway like a ray of light. Jian Lu saw Wen Ning and suddenly stood up. She had come. Jian Lu was so excited that he said, You really came, you didn't lie to me. Lie to you? Why would I lie to you? Wen Ning walked a few steps closer and lightly commanded, Ji Yanli, first see how this old lady's body is doing. Several people took instruments and began to examine Grandma Ye's body. Jian Lu was worried and said, Grandma's illness. Wen Ning took Jian Luo's wrist and said, Don't worry, these people I brought are my own medical team, not inferior to top doctors. Let them take a look first. If it can be transferred, will you take your grandmother to the hospital? Jian Luo nodded and said, Thank you, Wen Ning. Wen Ning said, You don't need to be polite with me. As I said, you are my person. Jian Luo's ears turned red again, and he silently pulled his hand out of Wen Ning's. He is not. He is being forced to do it. He hasn't graduated from college yet, and he doesn't want a wife. Although Wen Ning is very beautiful, more beautiful than anyone he has ever met, he will not take her. Ji Yanli turned back and said, This elderly person's condition is not good, and he needs to be sent to the hospital for professional examination. Jian Lu asked nervously, How is Grandma? You don't need to worry. The hospital's medical equipment can completely stabilize her condition. It may be very expensive, but our equipment is the best in the world. Jiang Lu whispered, I have money. You treat my grandmother, and I can go make money. I'll give you this card too. Jiang Lu handed the gold card Wen Ning had given him to one of the male doctors. The male doctor didn't take it, but glanced at Wen Ning. Wen Ning's tone was cold. I gave you the card so you would have some spending money. I'll take care of your grandmother's condition. Keep the card safe and don't give it to anyone else. Okay. Jiang Luo asked uneasily, Are you really able to save my grandmother? I can promise you whatever you want. Wen Ning's eyebrows shot up. Really? HM. Wen Ning looked at Jiang Luo and slowly said, I want you to get married to me after you graduate from university in 4 years. Jiang Luo was shocked for a moment. Get married? Not only Jiang Luo, but even the doctors and assistants next to them were shocked. Has General Wen gone crazy? This one in front of them is just an 18-year-old boy. Wen Ning nodded, Well, 4 years from now, you'll be 22 and you can marry me. Jiang Lu hesitated for a moment, clenched his fists, nodded and agreed. I promise, I'll do whatever you want, as long as you can save Grandma. Wen Ning was amused and laughed. She looked very pretty when she laughed. Jiang Lu stared at her blankly, stunned. She was so beautiful. I'm only asking you to marry me, why don't you want to? Is it because I'm not pretty enough? Wen Ning slowly approached, her beautiful face gradually drawing closer. Jiang Lu swallowed, taking a few steps back. Beautiful, very beautiful. Wen Ning was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. However, he was only 18 years old and didn't want a wife. He still had to go to university. Jiang Lu was about to cry, but for the sake of his grandmother, he had to hold back. Suddenly, 2 hands appeared on his face, savagely ravaging his face. Jiang Lu shook his head, I'm willing, just save my grandmother. Fine, from now on, you are my fiancé. If you dare to flirt with other girls, do you know what the consequences will be? Jiang Lu shook his head blankly. He had never been in love before, and he already had a future wife, who was also several years older than him. When Ning's eyes darkened, pinching Jiang Lu's chin, he muttered, "The consequences are very serious. I hope you will never know." "I won't. I've never been in love before, and I don't have a girlfriend. As long as you can save my grandmother, I'll do whatever you want." Wen Ning let go of his hand. "Let's go. Take your grandmother to the hospital. You'll go with us." "Okay." Wen Ning took Jiang Lu's wrist and helped him into the car. The two of them sat together. Jiang Lu felt uncomfortable and shifted to the side. "Are you afraid of me?" "No." Jiang Lu's ears were red. This was the first time he had been in such close contact with a woman, and he was just a little nervous. When Ning asked, "You've been living with your grandmother in the countryside. Where are your parents?" "I don't have any parents. My grandmother found me and took me in," Jiang Lu answered quietly. He didn't remember his parents either. He only had his grandmother, his foster parents, and his younger brother Jiang Huai, who had always bullied him. When Ning said softly, "Your grandmother is going to be hospitalized. Where do you plan to live? Still in the countryside? It's too far from the hospital, and you won't be able to take care of her. Why don't you live at my place? My house is very close to the central hospital." Jiang Luo shook his head. "How can I, a man, live in your house? I'd better rent a room." When Ning raised the corner of her eyes. "Rent a room? You're sure? Renting a room in the center of the imperial capital costs more than 10,000 yuan a month." "Ah. That's so expensive, more than 10,000 yuan, enough for my living expenses for a year, I'm not renting." Jiang Luo kept shaking his head. He would rather sleep on the street than rent a room. His adoptive parents should also be in this area of the imperial capital. But Uncle Jiang doesn't like him, so he's not going. When Ning added, "So, living with me is free. My house is quite big, and having one more person won't make a difference. My house has a lot of security, and I'm a man too." Jiang Luo was successfully swayed by the words. "Really? Can I go? I have very few things, just a few sets of clothes to change, and you can give me a very small house?" A faint smile rose at the corner of Wen Ning's mouth. "Yes, you can." Chapter 44. Wen always tricked Jiang Luo into going home. Half an hour later, the car arrived at the Daida's Central Hospital. Grandma Jiang was taken into the diagnosis room. Jiang Luo stood at the door, anxiously pacing back and forth, sweating profusely. When Ning took out a napkin and handed it to Jiang Luo, "Don't worry, your grandmother will be fine." Jiang Luo wiped the sweat on his face carelessly, the whole person was anxious. His grandmother is the person he is closest to, and if he loses her, what will he do? When Ning silently accompanied Jiang Luo, and asked softly, "Have you eaten dinner yet tonight?" Jiang Luo choked, and said, "No, my grandmother said she killed an old hen today and would make me some chicken soup, but before she could, she fainted." After a few minutes, Su Qi came up, holding a package of buns and millet porridge in her hand. "General Wen, I've bought the dinner you asked for." When Ning took it and put it on the table, and started eating first. "I'm not eating." Jiang Luo shook his head, his gaze fixed on the red light in the operating room. "Not eating? I don't know when Grandma will be out, do you want to go hungry all night?" Jiang Luo took a bite of the bun, but it got stuck in his throat again, so Wen Ning immediately gave him a cup of millet porridge to drink. "Thank you." Jiang Luo took it and took a sip. Apart from Grandma, Wen Ning was the second person to care about him so much. Jiang Luo turned his head and gave Wen Ning a secret look, before handing her a bun. "You eat it too. You haven't eaten yet, have you? You came to pick up me and Grandma." Wen Ning didn't take it, but bit into Jiang Luo's hand. Her soft lips touched Jiang Luo's hand lightly. Jiang Luo's heart tightened, and he almost threw the whole bun away. "The taste is good, I've already eaten, you eat it." Jiang Luo took a bite blankly. It was the bun that Wen Ning had just eaten, it tasted very good, it was beef filling. The millet porridge was also hot and sweet. After eating, Jiang Luo continued to sit in the chair waiting for his grandmother. After a day of work, he was a little sleepy, his eyes were hazy, and he leaned against the back wall. When Ning took off the trench coat she was wearing and gently covered Jiang Luo with it. Su Chi, who was standing next to her, couldn't help but smirk. Their boss Wen really had unique tastes, liking these 18 and 19-year-old boys. Several hot-bodied female bodyguards touched their noses, glanced at each other, and none of them dared to speak. Grandma! Jian Lu seemed to have had a nightmare and suddenly opened his eyes. What caught his eye was an enlarged face. Those eyes were dark and beautiful, the corners of the eyes slightly raised, the nose high and straight, and further down were soft lips, glowing with moisture. Jian Lu's Adam's apple rolled slightly. He took off the black trench coat and asked, "Where's Grandma? Has she come out yet?" "Don't worry, she's already come out. She's in the intensive care unit." "Where is it?" Wen Ning took Jian Lu's hand and personally led him to the intensive care unit. Grandma Jiang was lying in bed, her face a little pale. "Grandma." Jian Lu sat by the bed and took Grandma Jiang's hand. "Jian Lu, you're coming back with me tonight. I've got someone here to take care of Grandma, so you need to get some rest." Jian Lu looked up and said, "No, I want to stay here and take care of Grandma. You go back first. I'll bring you here tomorrow. Now, come with me. You need to rest. You won't be able to sleep well here." Jian Lu was forced by Wen Ning to get into the car. After about 7 or 8 minutes, the car stopped. After getting out of the car, Jian Lu looked at the scene in front of her in shock. The large manor was brightly lit, with all kinds of entertainment equipment and a swimming pool. Jian Lu thought she had arrived at an amusement park. "Wen Ning, is this your home? Have we come to the wrong place? This looks like an amusement park." "This is my home, and it will be your home in the future." The two walked through the front yard before reaching the living room. Wen Wan stood up, surprised, and covered her mouth. "Sister, who is this?" Her sister has actually brought a boy home. He looks so young, younger than she is. Wen Ning spoke indifferently, "This is your future brother-in-law." When Wan's eyes widened, her mouth agape as if she could stuff an egg in it. She was shocked and unable to come back to her senses for a long time. "Brother-in-law? You mean him? He looks so young, he should be 18 or 19 years old." "Sister, is this the kind of person you like?" Wen Ning did not answer, and instructed the maid next to her to pack up and prepare the largest guest room, which was very close to her bedroom, only a wall away. "Sister, you still haven't answered me, is he really my brother-in-law?" Wen Wan continued to ask, not giving up. Wen Ning nodded and said, "Well." Wen Wan took a deep breath and stared at Jiang Luo for a long time. Apart from being good-looking, there didn't seem to be anything special about this person. Her sister had turned down so many wealthy young men, but she actually liked such a college student in her late teens or early 20s? Jiang Luo felt embarrassed by the way she was being looked at and sat down on the sofa, lowering his head. "Jiang Luo, the room is ready, I'll show you." Wen Ning took Jiang Luo's hand and walked upstairs, and Jiang Luo silently withdrew his hand again. Wen Ning stopped and whispered in Jiang Luo's ear, "So precious, you won't even let me touch your hand? I forgot, last night, I touched every part of you." Jiang Luo's face turned red again, and he whispered, "Wen Ning, you stop it, I'm sleepy, where is my room?" Wen Ning laughed softly and led Jiang Luo to his room. Opening the door, it was clean and tidy, with a table and sofa, and soft bedding on the bed. This was the first time Jiang Lu had seen such a big house. His house was very small, with just a bed and a wooden table that his grandfather had made for him. "This will be your room from now on, and the room next door will be mine. If you need anything, just let me know." Then Jiang Lu looked at the door next to his, only a few centimeters apart, separated by a wall. "How come our rooms are so close to each other?" Wen Ning said indifferently, "This guest room is bigger, so you'll be more comfortable here." She would never admit that she had deliberately asked the maid to clean this room for Jiang Luo to stay in. "Thank you." Jiang Luo pursed his lips. "You're welcome. Go in and rest. There are pajamas inside. See if they fit. I'll move your things in tomorrow." "Okay." After Jiang Luo entered, he immediately closed and locked the door. Wen Ning crossed her arms and a smile crossed her eyes. He's quite defensive. Jiang Luo took a hot shower in the bathroom, wrapped himself in a robe, lay on the bed, and looked at the unfamiliar ceiling. He was actually in a strange woman's house, and this woman even took him. Jiang Luo rolled around on the bed. He had originally gone to work, but it was all ruined by this woman Wen Ning. But Wen Ning was also very good, helping his grandmother with her medical bills and finding him a place to live. He didn't seem to be that angry anymore. Chapter 55 Future Husband, Him? Wen Ning slowly walked downstairs, and Wen Wan, undaunted, continued to ask, Sister, sister. Is the person you just brought back really my brother-in-law? He looks younger than me. In theory, he should be 3 years younger than you. Wen Wan crumbled. Ah, he's only 18. What are you doing? Raising a child husband? What do you like about him? You don't like his face, do you? Wen Ning didn't deny it, but that was only one of the reasons. Zhang Luo is already 18 years old, and he is the one I like. Although he doesn't understand anything now, he will be fine after some nurturing. Wen Ning sat on the sofa with her legs crossed. Her big, slightly curly waves fell on her chest, and she had a hot body. However, her face was cold and desolate, creating a strong sense of contrast. Wen Wan helplessly dissuaded her, saying, Sister, guys like this don't like sisters like you. They like people their own age, that kind of cute and sweet girl. How could Zhang Luo like you? You're 6 years older than him. After saying this, Wen Ning's face changed slightly. 6 years older than him, is that really that big of a deal? Wen Wan nodded vigorously, of course it is. Wen Ning didn't say anything, went to the bathroom, took a milk bath, and her skin was as smooth as lamb fat jade, exuding a fresh body fragrance. After leaving the room, Wen Ning knocked gently on Zhang Luo's door. Zhang Luo, are you asleep? I forgot to get you a hair dryer earlier. Zhang Luo opened the door, and the scene in front of him almost made him have a nosebleed. Wen Ning was wearing a black, ultra-short nightdress. The thin fabric on her chest could no longer conceal the soft mound, which was about to burst out. Her waist was too thin to hold, and her legs were long and thin, dazzling in their whiteness. Zhang Lu glanced at her and immediately lowered his head, stammering and almost biting his tongue, Why aren't you wearing any clothes? Wen Ning raised the corners of her eyes, Who wears clothes at night? Aren't you wearing pajamas? Zhang Lu hurriedly pulled her pajamas on, not even showing her neck. Wen Ning raised the corner of her lips, and then she remembered that she forgot to get a hairdryer for you. Zhang Lu whispered, Thank you. Don't be polite with me. Do you need any help? Zhang Lu shook her head repeatedly, No, I can blow dry my hair myself. Wen Ning directly took the hairdryer and entered Zhang Lu's bedroom, as if she were entering her own room. She sat on the sofa and patted the seat next to her. Come here, sit here, I'll blow dry your hair for you. If you don't blow dry your hair at night, you'll catch a cold easily. Zhang Luo sat next to Wen Ning, feeling uncomfortable all over, and moved his head. Actually, I can blow dry my hair myself, I'll do it myself. Don't move. Zhang Luo obediently sat there, not daring to move, as someone was blowing drying his hair for the first time. The corner of his mouth unconsciously rose. Wen Ning patiently blow-dried Zhang Luo's hair, bent down, and wiped the water off his face. Zhang Luo's skin was cold and white, his facial features were three-dimensional and deep, especially his eyes, which were very dark, and his lips were also very attractive. When he was in high school, he was chased by many people, but Zhang Luo didn't like girls, and his face would turn red if he spoke to a girl for a moment. Not to mention a woman like Wen Ning, who was hot-bodied and powerful. Zhang Luo lowered his eyes, and a ball of snow-white softness came into view, glowing with a faint pink color. Zhang Lu's ears were red and bloody, and he immediately looked away, reciting a silent mantra in his heart. He was no longer a boy who knew nothing. That night, he and Wen Ning. Zhang Lu felt his heart beat faster just thinking about it. His roommate had seen those kinds of movies before, and he had glanced at them casually. The figures of those women were worlds apart from Wen Ning's. Huh? Why are your ears red? Wen Ning deliberately pinched Zhang Lu's ears and asked, Why were they red? Zhang Luo pushed away Wen Ning's hand and muttered, Don't touch me. Why? Wen Ning knew the answer but asked anyway, and went to touch Zhang Luo's face again. You are mine, why can't I touch you? The white as jade fingers slowly moved down Zhang Luo's chest, and Zhang Luo suddenly grabbed Wen Ning's hand and said, I want to sleep. Zhang Luo got into bed as quickly as he could, and covered himself with the quilt, not letting a single strand of hair show. Wen Ning didn't tease him anymore either, and turned and left the room. Zhang Luo tossed and turned on the bed, unable to sleep, and the face of Wen Ning was all he could think of. What was wrong with him? Why did he keep thinking about that woman? She was so bad, forcing herself on him. Zhang Luo shook his head to dispel the figure in his mind and closed his eyes. Zhang Luo. Wen Ning wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him on the lips. The two of them entwined, unable to part. And he had had that dream. John Luo blushed as she picked up the sheets, put them in the bathroom washing machine, stirred them with water, and gave them a quick wash. The kitchen was already set with dinner, and Wen Ning, with her legs folded, was sitting on the sofa waiting for John Luo. Wen Wan's stomach was growling with hunger, and she had just picked up the chopsticks when Wen Ning turned back and said, "John Luo still hasn't got up." "Sister, I can't eat until he gets up." "You can't just forget your sister when you get a boyfriend." Wen Wan leaned over the dining table, covering her stomach, wanting to eat, looking longingly at the table full of food. Wen Ning saw that Jiang Lu had not gotten up yet, so she stepped in her high heels and went upstairs, knocking on Jiang Lu's room door. "Jiang Lu, still not up? We're going to the hospital in a while." Jiang Lu opened the door, head bowed, having just finished washing the sheets, feeling guilty. She glanced at Wen Ning and then remembered the dream she had last night, with blood dripping from her red ears. "I'll be right out." Wen Ning walked into the room and pointed at the quilt on the bed and asked, "Why are the sheets gone? Weren't there sheets last night?" "I stained the sheets, so I washed them." "Stained?" Wen Ning looked at Jiang Luo up and down and asked, "How did you stain the sheets?" Jiang Luo whispered, "I just did it by accident." After saying this, Jiang Luo took Wen Ning's hand and walked out of the room, closing the door behind them, afraid that Wen Ning would discover something. Wen Ning looked at the hand Jiang Luo was holding, raising an eyebrow. "Yesterday, she wouldn't let me touch it, but today, she's taking the initiative?" Jiang Luo quickly pulled back her hand. "I was just hungry." Wen Ning couldn't hide the smile at the corner of her eyes. She was clearly a big boy taller than her, but why was he so afraid of women? "After dinner, I'll take you to the hospital. Your grandmother should wake up today." "Okay, thanks." Wen sees Jiang Lu coming and picks up the chopsticks to eat the leftover rice. "Jiang Lu, you're finally here. My sister wouldn't let me start eating until you came down. If we don't eat soon, we'll starve to death." Wen prepares Jiang Lu's bowl and says, "Go ahead, help yourself. These are the lighter dishes." Jiang Lu nods and says, "I'm fine with whatever." He's not picky, as long as he has something to eat. Wen Wan pouted, muttering, "Jiang Lu, my sister is really nice to you, nicer than she is to me. Could this be the difference between a future husband and a younger sister?" Jiang Lu was momentarily stunned, and picked up a mouthful of white rice. Future husband? Him? Chapter 6:6 He definitely would not like Wen Ning. Wen Ning continued to serve Jiang Lu, saying, eat more vegetables, don't just keep eating white rice. There are also crystal buns and sandwiches for breakfast, as well as steak. Do you like these? Jiang Luo was presented with a lot of food. In the past, he would just have 2 buns and a cup of soy milk for breakfast, and that was enough for 3 yuan. How much would all this food cost? I like it. Jiang Luo took a bite of the steak. It was different from the steak he used to eat, with a crispy outside and tender inside, and a delicious taste. Jiang Luo took another bite of the crystal bun, which seemed to contain shrimp and various seafood and also tasted good. Jiang Luo whispered, "Wen Ning, don't keep passing food to me, there's already plenty, I can't finish it all." Wen Ning said, "Eat more, you're still growing." "Sister, Jiang Luo is 18, not 8, he's already an adult, he's not growing anymore now," Wen Wan whispered a reminder. "He's just become an adult, he can still grow, eat more." Wen Ning served Jiang Luo a big bowl of vegetables, and then instructed the maid next to her to prepare a nutritious breakfast to take to Jiang's grandmother. After finishing eating, Jiang Luo took the cooler box and followed Wen Ning into the car. "I didn't go to work today, I need to take a day off." "Okay." Jiang Luo called Manager Li and politely asked, "Manager Li, something came up at home today, can I take a day off?" Manager Li was polite and said, "Of course you can take as many days off as you like, you can even stay away from work." Jiang Lu immediately explained, "I'm not resigning, I'm just taking a few days off. My grandmother is sick and in the hospital." "It's fine, take care of your grandmother, and come back to work when she gets better." "It's fine, I'll pay you the same salary, I've increased it to 8,000 a month." Jiang Lu was puzzled, "You've increased it to 8,000, but I don't seem to have done much. The whole company got a pay rise, and I thought I'd give you one too." "It's fine, you take care of your grandmother first, and come back when you're free." After the phone call, Jiang Lu was still confused. When had Manager Li been so easy to talk to? He was still getting paid while he was on leave, and his salary had gone up to 8,000. As a summer job, that was already a very good price. Since he got a pay rise, he would be able to earn more than 10,000 yuan in 2 months, and he would be able to have a good time at university for a year. Jiang Lu was in a good mood and told Wen Ning, I got a pay rise. Manager Li suddenly gave me a pay rise, saying that everyone's got a pay rise, and it's up to 8,000. Wen Ning's voice was light. Do you really need the money? I told you that I'll support you. Is 5 million a month enough? Jiang Lu immediately shook his head. No, you're giving me too much money. I can't spend it all. Don't go to work anymore, just stand at the door as a mascot. Other women will want to hit on you when they see you. Wen Ning's eyes darkened, and there seemed to be a chill in the air. Jiang Luo gathered his clothes around him and muttered, I don't care about them, I don't like those people. Ha? Then who do you like? Jiang Luo glanced at Wen Ning and didn't say anything, just shaking his head. He didn't like anyone. Many female classmates confessed their love to him, but he didn't agree. Back in high school, Jiang Luo was the school's heartthrob, studying well, good-looking, and many girls liked him. As soon as Jiang Luo finished speaking, his phone rang. Jiang Luo, are you free recently? Can I go to the movies with you? There are new anime releases recently, your favorite genre. I'm not free recently, my grandmother is sick, and I'm taking care of her in the hospital. When did grandma get sick? I didn't know. Where is she? Can I go see her? She's at the Imperial Capital Central Hospital. Jiang Luo just looked up, and Wen Ning stared at him straight, narrowing her cold eyes. Who were you talking to just now? Jiang Luo said sincerely, my classmate, a former high school classmate, wants to come and see grandma. Grandma might be very happy to see her. Wen Ning asked again, a girl? Jiang Luo nodded, yes, she studies very hard, and we took the same exam for the same major. Wen Ning suddenly reached out and lifted Jiang Luo's chin, asking coldly, do you like her? No, she's just an ordinary classmate. Jiang Luo blinked sincerely. Ordinary classmate? Wen Ning was doubtful, and her beautiful face slowly moved closer to Jiang Luo. Don't forget, you belong to me. If you dare to flirt with other girls, do you know what the consequences will be? I haven't, as long as you save grandma, I'll agree to anything, I won't go watch a movie with her. Wen Ning was finally satisfied and turned to hold his hand. Jiang Luo's hand was very big, even bigger than hers. Judging from his height, he didn't look like an 18-year-old boy at all. His face was very young-looking, and Wen Ning was mesmerized by it, her pale, jade-like fingers gently stroking Jiang Luo's face. In a few years, he will only get more handsome. Jiang Luo leaned back, uncomfortable from Wen Ning's gaze, which always made him feel like she wanted to eat him. Scared of me? I'll eat you? Wen Ning curled the corner of her lips and placed a kiss on Jiang Luo's handsome side face. Jiang Luo's body instantly stiffened in place, and it took a long time for him to come back to his senses, staring blankly at the woman in front of him. You? Wen Ning raised the corners of her eyes, huh? What about me? I already said a long time ago that you were mine. What's wrong with a kiss? I'm your girlfriend. Jiang Luo was even more shocked. Girlfriend? When did you become my girlfriend? I don't know anything about it. I saved your grandmother, and you said you would agree to any condition I asked. Jiang Luo nodded, I remember, but you are so rich, and you have so many subordinates, you must be a big boss, why do you have to let me be your boyfriend? I'm just an ordinary person. But, I just like you, what do you say? Wen Ning pinched Jiang Luo's ear again, exhaling hot air in his ear, her voice was seductive and pleasant. Jiang Luo felt a warm current enter his ears, and his whole body went numb. He immediately pushed away Wen Ning's hand. But I don't like you. It's okay, we can get to know each other slowly in the future. Wen Ning once again took Jiang Luo's hand, and in the future, maybe you'll fall in love with me. Jiang Luo shook his head repeatedly, quickly pulling his hand back. He would never fall in love with a woman who was 6 years older than him. He was still the one who forced himself on her the first time. Absolutely not. Chapter 77. A girlfriend who was 6 years older than him. The parking lot of the lobby of the Daida's Central Hospital. After getting off the car, Wen Ning and Jiang Luo got on the elevator on the 5th floor together. Top VIP room. Jiang Luo opened the door, and the old man in the hospital bed had already opened his eyes. His complexion was much better than yesterday. When he saw Jiang Luo coming, he wore a kind smile on his face and waved at him. Luo is here. Grandma, you're awake. John Luo finally revealed a smile on his face. The only thing that can truly make him happy is his grandmother's health. Wen Ning said, "Hello, Grandma Jiang." Grandma Jiang then noticed that there was another person next to them, and they were still holding hands. Her Luo Luo would blush like a monkey's bottom whenever she spoke to other people's girls, but what was going on this time? Could it be that she had finally blossomed? "Luo Luo, who is this?" John Luo introduced. "She is Wen Ning, she is the one who brought the doctor to our house last night to take Grandma to the hospital." Wen Ning politely said, "Hello, Grandma Jiang, I'm John Luo's girlfriend." Upon hearing this, Grandma Jiang almost jumped out of bed in excitement. Girlfriend? When did Luo Luo get such a beautiful girlfriend? She looks a few years older than him, but that's okay, because older people know how to take care of people. Girlfriend? Luo Luo has a girlfriend? Grandma didn't even know about it. When did it happen? John Luo scratched his head and casually said, "Just yesterday." Grandma Jiang was beaming. "Yesterday, that's great, Luo Luo has a girlfriend." "Ning, how old are you? Have you graduated from university?" "Luo Luo is going to university soon." When Ning sat down next to Grandma Jiang and said, "I'm 24 years old. I graduated from university 2 years ago and I work in a company." 24 years old, 6 years older than Luo Luo, not too much. Grandma Jiang was very satisfied with this future granddaughter-in-law. She is good-looking, has a good figure and wears unusual clothes. She must be rich. That's all secondary. The most important thing is that she treats Luo Luo well. Luo Luo has had a hard life since childhood. I never thought she would find such a good girlfriend. Luo Luo, how did you two meet? Luo Luo touched the tip of her nose awkwardly. I met her at work, Grandma. I brought you breakfast. You eat first. Good, Luo Luo is really filial. Grandma Jiang successfully changed the subject. Luo Luo opened the huge cooler, which contained many dishes that Grandma Jiang had never seen before. So many dishes. Wen Ning had the kitchen prepare it. Grandma is sick and needs to build up her strength, so Wen Ning had the kitchen specially make this pork rib soup. Good, Grandma, drink up. Grandma Jiang smiled happily, and the pain in her body eased considerably. Even after she is gone, Luo Luo will still have someone to keep her company. Grandma Jiang had a good appetite, and after drinking a bowl of pork rib soup, she also ate a crystal bun. Luo Luo, don't you still have to go to work? Don't be late, Grandma, you've already recovered, and you can go home tomorrow. John Luo sat down next to John's grandmother and said, Grandma, I've taken some time off work. I've got a pay rise, and I'll be making 8,000 yuan a month. And I won't get docked for the time off. These bosses are all so nice, they're really great people. After chatting with Zhang's grandmother for a while, John Luo left the room, afraid of disturbing her rest. John Luo looked up and asked, Wen Ning, why did you say that to Grandma? I'm your girlfriend, and I'll be your wife in the future. No. No way. He doesn't want such a big wife. John Luo was about to leave when Wen Ning grabbed his hand again and led him to the car. I'm going to the company. Do you want to come with me? John Luo pulled his hand back. I'm not going. I'll go home and take a look and move some of my things over. Wen Ning whispered, I'll ask Su Qi to help you. There's an important meeting today, so I can't move with you. It's okay, you go ahead. John Luo got out of the car and was about to call a taxi to go home. Wen Ning made a phone call, and in a few minutes, several black Rolls-Royces pulled up next to John Luo. John Luo. Is this the legendary female CEO? Wen Ning seems to be very rich. Wen Ning escorted John Luo to the car and reminded her, the people Su Qi brought will help you move your things. You just need to tell her the address. Okay. Wen Ning got into the other car, and the two cars drove off in opposite directions. Su Qi looked at John Luo in the rearview mirror. She really couldn't understand why her boss Wen had fallen for such a boy of 18 or 19. He was good-looking, but he was still too young. He didn't know anything. Half an hour later, the car arrived at a small town with a beautiful landscape. John Lu got out of the car, took out the key and opened the door. A group of old hens, as if they were starving, kept running towards John Lu. John Lu went to feed the old hens first, and then the goats. Young Master John Luo, do you need to take these things with you? No, I'll just take my clothes and books. John Luo went into his room to pack, putting his favorite clothes in his suitcase and a few books. Before leaving, Jiang Luo looked back at his small room with reluctance. Although it was very simple, with just a wooden table and a wooden bed, it was the place he had lived the longest. However, he believed that one day he would be able to escape from Wen Ning. Maybe one day Wen Ning will get tired of him and kick him out, and he can come back to live here. Suchi took Jiang Luo's suitcase and put it in the car, asking, "Young Master Jiang Luo, is there anything else?" Jiang Luo took out the small golden pinion lock from the drawer and put it in the box. "There's nothing else, let's go." Jiang Luo was about to leave when a young girl of 18 or 19 came in, wearing a beige dress and with a pure and lovely appearance. "Jiang Luo, where are you going?" Jiang Luo explained, "Zhang Yi, I'm going to live in the Imperial Capital Center for a while, and I may not come back." Zhang Yi's face turned a little happy. "The Imperial Capital Center, does your mother want to pick you up? Are you going to be the young master of the Zhang family soon? Don't forget us." "No, it's something else. I may come back after a while. When Wen Ning gets tired of him one day and kicks him out, he can come back." Jiang Luo thought to himself. Chapter 88. When will Wen Ning let him go? So that's what happened. I thought you were going back to the Zhang family and becoming the eldest son. Zhang Yi's face showed a hint of disappointment. Jiang Lu smiled wryly. I'm just an ordinary person, not the eldest son of the Zhang family. The eldest son is Zhang Jia. Zhang Yi frowned and said, I messaged Zhang Jia, but he ignored me. He's already forgotten all of us, his former friends. Jiang Luo, let's go to the movies together. I bought the tickets, it would be a waste not to go. I'll meet you at the Daido Center tomorrow. Jiang Luo hesitated for a moment, and then said, okay. Zhang Yi immediately handed Jiang Luo a ticket and said, here's the ticket. Don't forget, I'll be waiting for you at the Huafeng Commercial Street in the Daido Center tomorrow. Jiang Luo casually put the ticket in his pocket. Well, I'll be free tomorrow, I'll come out. You should go back now, I have to go. Zhang Yi asked, what if I want to see you in the future? Call me. Zhang Yi nodded and left the courtyard. Jiang Lu left enough food for the old hen and the goat, relocked the door, and got into the car. Zhang Yi waved at Jiang Lu, I will always be waiting for you here, don't forget me. The car gradually disappeared before Zhang Yi left. Back at Yunhai Manor, Jiang Luo tidied up his things, folding his clothes neatly in the closet and arranging his books on the table. After doing all this, Jiang Luo lay down on the bed to rest for a while, and vaguely felt someone touching his face. He opened his eyes abruptly. A cold face appeared in front of him, with slightly upturned corners of the eyes. Jiang Luo was startled and immediately sat up. Wen Ning, you're off work. I've packed everything up. Is this all you own? Jiang Luo nodded, yes, I don't own much. Wen Ning took a quick look at Jiang Luo's clothes. They were all worn out but clean. These pants are faded. Are you sure you can still wear them? Come with me this afternoon to buy some clothes. No need. Even though they are faded, they are still in good condition, so of course I can wear them. Then Wen Ning told the cleaning lady to take Jiang Luo's worn-out clothes and dispose of them. Jiang Luo stamped his feet in anger, frowning, Wen Ning, those are my clothes, who are you to throw them away? You are my person, how can my person wear that kind of clothes? Go shopping with me today. I'm not going. Jiang Luo threw himself angrily on the bed, holding the back of his head towards Wen Ning. I'm not going. Wen Ning laughed softly and tapped Jiang Luo on the back of the head. Are you sure? You have no clothes to wear, so are you going to wear this one forever? Jiang Luo was forced to obey Wen Ning's words. This woman. So bad. She must have done it on purpose. When will I be able to escape from her clutches? The central shopping mall of the imperial capital. Wen Ning got off the car, wearing a black dress with black silk, stepping in 10-centimeter high heels, with slightly curled big waves hanging down to her waist. She had a pair of sunglasses on her face, but it still couldn't hide her noble aura. Jiang Luo followed behind Wen Ning, wearing a white shirt, washed-out jeans, and white sneakers. He was a handsome boy in the sunshine. The two of them looked exceptionally well-matched as they walked together. That brother and sister really look good together. The brother is so handsome, and the sister is also very beautiful. Yes, they are too beautiful to be anything but brother and sister. People around them whispered, and Wen Ning gave them a glance, pushing her sunglasses on her face. Brother and sister? Su Qi, Jiang Luo, and I are like brother and sister? Suchi looked up at the sky and down at the ground. After a while, she nodded with difficulty. Wen, it's a bit like that. But just a bit. Wen Ning stepped in her high heels and walked over to Jiang Luo, taking his arm with both hands. This way, no one would mistake them for siblings. What a bunch of blind people. This was the first time Jiang Luo had been in such close contact with a woman, and he felt very uncomfortable. He almost stumbled as he walked. Wen Ning exuded a faint fragrance, not a pungent perfume, but a body scent. Jiang Lu sniffed closer, and he didn't dislike the smell at all. He was going shopping with Wen Ning. For the first time, Jiang Lu resigned to his fate. What could he do when this female devil had set her sights on him? Wen Ning pointed at the clothes on the mannequin not far away and asked, "What do you think of that black suit? It looks quite good on you. Why don't you buy one?" Before Jiang Lu could answer, Wen Ning walked over and told the attendant to bring him an identical suit. "Go try it on first and see if the size fits." Jiang Luo went to the fitting room and changed into the suit. The black suit made him look a little more mature, and his long legs looked even longer in the suit pants. This gentleman has a great figure, he can wear this suit, and he's still so handsome. "Is this your husband?" Wen Ning nodded coldly and said, "Yes, my fiancé." Jiang Luo's ears turned red again. Did Wen Ning no shame after all, telling everyone? Who is her fiancé? He would never. Wen Ning suddenly lifted her hand and thoughtfully fixed Jiang Luo's collar and tied the bow tie. Jiang Luo arrogantly turned his head to the side. No matter how good Wen Ning was to him, he would never like Wen Ning. Much less marry her. "Jiang Luo, this suit really suits you." Wen Ning fastened 2 suit buttons on Jiang Luo and changed into the clothes. Indeed, it gave a different feeling. "Wrap it up." "Okay, young lady, this suit is French cool haute couture and costs 138.99.99. On hearing this, Jiang Luo decisively took the suit off and prepared to return it to the waiter. Such an expensive suit, he couldn't afford it even if he sold himself. Wen Ning directly took out a diamond black card and swiped it. Jiang Luo dissuaded him, "Wen Ning, it's too expensive. Why don't you choose another suit? I don't really like this one, it's not very casual." "Is it expensive?" "I think it's okay. You look good in it, you can show it to me later." Wen Ning bought it with a domineering air, and handed the packed bag to Suchi next to him. "Wen Ning, it's really too expensive, a suit costs over $1 million, that's enough to buy me a house." "Do you want a house? Which kind of house?" "I'll help you look, a villa or a manor?" "I can give you both." Jiang Luo shook his head, "I don't want it." "You don't? It's pretty nice living in my manor. Let's go, let's look at some other clothes." Jiang Luo's hand was once again grasped by Wen Ning, and she really had a lot of strength, so much that he couldn't pull it away. "Wen Ning, you." Wen Ning stopped in his tracks, "What's wrong? Can you stop holding my hand?" Jiang Luo's words were completely ignored by Wen Ning, who continued to walk while holding his wrist. "You are mine, I can hold you as long as I want." Jiang Luo was choked by Wen Ning's overbearing words. When will Wen Ning let go of him? Chapter 99. Mr. Wen, stop kissing and be a human being. "That one is good, that one is fine too, go try them on." Jiang Luo was pushed into the cloakroom and tried on many outfits, which surprisingly fit him perfectly because his body proportions were really good. "Not bad. This one is fine too. This one looks good, I'll take it all." He tried on all the clothes and took them all. Jiang Luo gently tugged Wen Ning's sleeve and whispered, "There are too many, I can't wear them all. Keep them for later, I'll throw away all your clothes, of course I have to compensate you, what else do you want?" Wen Ning held Jiang Luo's hand and said, "I can give you whatever you want." Jiang Luo shook his head and said, "No, what you've given me is already more than enough. Wen Ning, let's go back." "Okay, let's go back." Wen Ning agreed to go back, but then took Jiang Luo to the famous shoe area. Jiang Luo always felt like he was being cheated. Was Wen Ning trying to kid a kid? "We'll go back after buying the shoes. I won't cheat you this time." Jiang Luo randomly picked a few styles and colors he liked, but when it came time to pay, it actually cost over 3 million. Jiang Luo was dumbfounded. These looked like ordinary shoes, so why were they so expensive? "Wen Ning, the shoes are too expensive, let's not buy them. Let's go somewhere else to buy them." Wen Ning paid directly with her credit card. "It's not expensive, as long as you like it. Do you need anything else?" No, I don't need anything. John Luo was led by Wen Ning's hand to the mobile phone store again. John Luo stood at the door and refused to go in. Wen Ning, what do you want to bring me here for again? My phone is still fine, it works, I don't need to buy a new one. Wen Ning pointed at John Luo's phone, the screen of which was broken, and said that he should get a new one. No need, this phone has only been used for 3 years. John Luo was dragged in by Wen Ning and bought a couple's model phone. Wen Ning took the white one and John Luo the blue one. The phone was okay, so they used it for the time being. Okay. Since they bought it, they couldn't just throw it away. John Luo calculated how much money Wen Ning had spent on him today, and finally came up with a result, more than 10 million. It exceeded his knowledge, and he had never seen so much money in his life. If his monthly salary is 8,000 yuan, how many years will it take to pay off this debt? Well, I can't calculate it. It's probably impossible to pay it off in a lifetime. What are you thinking about so intently that you didn't hear me? John Lu came back to his senses and asked, what did you say? I'm asking what you want to eat tonight. I'm fine with anything. John Lu was still thinking about how to pay Wen Ning back. Wen Ning, I've remembered all the money you spent on me, and I'll pay you back little by little in the future. Wen Ning's eyebrows furrowed slightly. Pay you back? John Luo nodded. Well, although I don't have any money right now and I can't pay you back, I will definitely have a lot of money in the future. Wen Ning lifted John Luo's chin. He was very handsome, with long eyelashes, eyes that shone like obsidian, a high nose, and lips that were slightly pursed with a hint of shyness. Wen Ning kissed him gently, and John Luo's pupils suddenly contracted. He stared at Wen Ning without blinking, feeling numb all over his face. Su Qi silently twitched the corners of his mouth. Mr. Wen, be a human being. She's only 18 years old. John Lu recovered from his daze, pushed Wen Ning away with his hand, covered his face, and whispered, what are you doing? Wen Ning remained calm and collected. I'm kissing you, can't you tell? Don't kiss me, I don't like you. It doesn't matter if you like me or not, you're mine now, and I can do whatever I want. Wen Ning lifted John Lu's chin and kissed him on the other side of his face. Her eyes slightly arched at the corners, and she looked in a good mood. John Luo had never met such a shameless woman before. He covered his face with his hands and turned his head to the other side. Do you think you can refuse me? Wen Ning grabbed John Luo's hands and pushed him against the seat. His eyes were dark and made people tremble. John Luo, be good and I'll give you anything. Wen Ning, let go of me first. No matter how John Luo struggled, it was useless. Wen Ning was too strong, and when she stared at him, it was like he had been targeted by a beast. When the car stopped, John Lu immediately got out, returned to the room as quickly as she could, and locked the door, afraid that Wen Ning would come in. When Wan wondered, sister, what's wrong with John Lu? She went upstairs and locked the door. Didn't you two go out to buy clothes? He might have been scared by me. Wen Ning stepped on her high heels and went upstairs, knocked on Jiang Lu's room door, and came out for dinner. I'm not hungry tonight, you guys eat. Jiang Lu, do you still want to go to college properly? If you don't behave, don't blame me for locking you in here forever. Jiang Luo jumped out of bed and opened the door. Wen Ning, what do you mean by that? You have no right to lock me in. I just want you to eat. How could I lock you in? Wen Ning spoke softly and took Jiang Luo's hand to lead him downstairs. Not eating dinner at night is bad for your stomach. I've already asked someone to prepare dinner to be delivered to Grandma. Don't worry, just eat. Jiang Luo looked at Wen Ning gratefully and said, thank you, Wen Ning. Although Wen Ning is sometimes very bad, she is still very good to him, and he no longer hates her. Wen Ning handed Jiang Luo the chopsticks, eat. Tomorrow I will go to work, you can go see Grandma, and let the driver take you there. Okay. When Wan asked casually, Jiang Luo, I heard that you were also admitted to Daidi University, what department are you in? Jiang Luo said, acting department. I heard that you can make money. I went to the crew and studied for a few days, and I passed. A few days? You're amazing, the acting department at Imperial University is very difficult, and it has produced many stars. I heard that I could make money, so I went and acted as an extra for a few days, earning some money for my high school living expenses. You're also very inspirational. I'm in the finance department, and in the future, I might be able to help my sister. My sister is too tired to manage the company alone. When Wan thoughtfully picks up food for Wen Ning, sister, eat more. Zhang Luo looked at the two of them with envy. He actually had a younger brother too, but his relationship with Zhang Jia was terrible. Zhang Jia only liked to bully him, and his parents only favored Zhang Jia. Zhang Jia was their biological son, so it was no wonder that his parents favored him. Zhang Luo, your grandmother picked you up and took care of you. We gave you a mouth to feed, so you should be grateful. Why did you make your younger brother cry? Zhang Jia was still rolling on the ground. The 8-year-old boy had been spoiled beyond belief, with 3 older sisters doting on him. Zhang Lu whispered, Mom, I didn't do it. It was Jiang Hui who fell accidentally while playing. Another slap on the head made Jiang Lu's tears spin in his eyes, but he didn't let them fall. Don't call me Mom. Who's your mom? I'm Jiang Hui's mom, not yours. At that time, Jiang Lu was only 8 years old, and he never called Jiang Mu mom again. Chapter 10:10 I not only watched it, I used it. Jiang Lu's eyes were red as he continued to shove food into his mouth, almost choking himself. Wen Ning patted Jiang Lu on the back and asked, What's wrong? You can choke on your food and you can choke on your water. Jiang Lu looked up, his eyes red as if he had been bullied. Wen Ning's eyes darkened, Who bullied you? No one bullied me, I just choked. Jiang Lu drank a glass of water, and the phone on the table rang. The note said, Uncle Jiang. After Jiang Lu went out, he answered the phone and said politely, Uncle Jiang. Jiang Lu, what did you call me yesterday about your grandmother? Jiang Lu said, Yes, Grandma got sick yesterday, and you didn't answer the phone when I called. Jiang's father anxiously asked, What's the situation now? Where is your grandmother? Did she go to the hospital? I was a little busy yesterday and didn't see the phone call. Jiang Lu calmly replied, Grandma has already been taken to the hospital by me, in the VIP room of Daidu Central Hospital, 5th floor, room 512. You can go and see Grandma tomorrow. That's a VIP room, where did you get the money to put your grandmother in such a room? Jiang Lu said, I naturally have a way, Uncle Jiang need not worry, the money spent on Grandma's hospital stay is not your responsibility. Although Jiang Huasong is the president of a company group, he is afraid of his wife. Mrs. Jiang is afraid that Zhang's grandmother will spend money, so she has always prevented Zhang's father from contacting Zhang's grandmother in the countryside. You have money? You are not going to college, and you have to earn living expenses for college. Uncle Jiang still has 1,000 yuan here, so I'll transfer it to you first. You also know that it's not easy for Uncle Jiang. He doesn't have the money to support you through college. Uncle Jiang still has several other children. Besides, you don't get along with Hui, and it makes your aunt angry. Zhang Luo gave a faint smile and said, Thank you, Uncle Jiang, but no, I can earn my own living expenses. When you have time, go visit Grandma. After she finished speaking, Zhang Luo hung up the phone, not wanting to have any more contact with him. Jiang Huasong is the chairman of a listed group company, and I heard that he is quite wealthy. He is not going to take a single cent, so why are you so on your guard against him? After Zhang Luo returned, she sat on the sofa and stopped eating. Wen Ning stood next to Zhang Luo, looking down at him condescendingly, and asked, Whose phone was it? Tell me, who made you unhappy? No, I'm done eating. Wen Ning, you should get some rest early, you still have to go to work tomorrow. Zhang Luo went back to his room, closed the door, and put on 2 locks. Wen Ning stood in the doorway, and through the light from inside, she could just see the 2 locks tightly locking the door. Is she that scary? Does she need to use 2 locks? It's just to force him once. Sister, he even kicked you out of the house. Do you want me to pick the lock for you? When Wan's words were just finished when she got a brain pop. What's with all the daydreaming? This is Zhang Luo's room. What's with the lock picking? He's already scared enough. Don't scare him. Okay, sister, I got it. When Wan patted her head in frustration. She just wanted to help her sister. Zhang Luo is so timid. You're not a wolf or a tiger. Why is he afraid of you? What did you do to him anyway? When Ning coughed a few times, nothing. You should go rest too. When Wan went back to her room half believing. Her sister must have done something to Zhang Luo, otherwise why would Zhang Luo be afraid of her sister? In the room. Zhang Luo came out of the bathroom after his shower, and Wen Ning was standing right in front of him, wearing a black low-cut short skirt with big waves hanging down her chest, her face cold and indifferent. Zhang Luo was not wearing any clothes, just a white bath towel wrapped around his lower body, which he immediately covered his body with. Wen Ning, how did you get in? I thought I locked the door, didn't I? And there were 2 locks. How did this woman get in? Wen Ning looked up and down at the young man in front of her, raising her eyebrows with a smile in her eyes. What's the point of covering it up so tightly? I've seen it before, and not only have I seen it, I've used it too. Her white as jade fingers lightly touched Jiang Luo's chest, then his belly, and she whispered, nice figure. Jiang Luo slowly backed away. This is my room, how did you get in? Why can't I come in your room? I'm your girlfriend, remember? Wen Ning moved closer again, pushing him against the wall, and asked seriously, tell me, what happened today? Why aren't you happy? I'm not unhappy. It's late, you should go to bed too. Don't you have to go to work tomorrow? Wen Ning raised the corner of her eyes and said, well, I really need to rest. I think your room is nice, so why don't I sleep here tonight? Jiang Lu was shocked again. This woman was really going too far. This is his room. Jiang Lu angrily said, don't you have a room? Why do you have to stay in my room? Wen Ning's voice was light and carefree. All the rooms here are mine, and so are you. I can sleep wherever I like. Jiang Lu was too late to stop her. Wen Ning was already sitting on the bed, having removed her high heels in the process. Her legs were long and straight, encased in stockings. Jiang Lu stood by the bed, seriously reasoning with the woman, Wen Ning, this is my room. You can't sleep in my room. You sleep in your own room. My bed is so small, it can't accommodate 2 people. Wen Ning did not think so. She lifted her eyelids and said, I think your bed is quite big, more than enough for the 2 of us. What's more, you are resisting me now, and the 2 of us need to cultivate our relationship. I'll go take a shower first, and bring me one of my pajamas, they're in the cabinet by the bed. Wen Ning had already walked into the bathroom when she spoke. Jiang Luo stood in the doorway, stamping his foot in anger. Although he was 100% reluctant, he had to bow his head under the roof, and his grandmother still relied on this woman in front of him. Jiang Luo went to Wen Ning's room and opened a cabinet at random. It was full of black underwear of all styles. Jiang Luo's face turned red and he hurriedly closed the cabinet and opened the one on the other side. It was full of strange pajamas and some styles that he had never seen before. Jiang Lu picked out the most normal-looking pajamas, gently weighed the hem, and took it out. Wen Ning, the pajamas are here. The door opened a crack, and Wen Ning reached out her arm to take the pajamas from Jiang Lu's hand. Jiang Lu finally let out a sigh of relief, and was about to go to bed when Wen Ning's voice sounded again. Jiang Lu, where are the underwear? Why didn't you take the underwear? I told you to take the pajamas, and you brought me a pajama. Or did you bring such conservative pajamas? Does Jiang Luo like this type? Chapter 11:11 Wen Ning, don't touch me. Underwear. Jiang Luo whispered, I'll get it. Once again, he went to Wen Ning's room, opened the cabinet, and took a random piece of underwear. He almost dropped it when his hand slipped, but his fingers caught a strap and he immediately handed it to Wen Ning. Here's your underwear. Wen Ning was finally satisfied this time. After changing her clothes, she opened the bathroom door. Wet hair was dripping down her neck, and a soft, round white mass was about to pop out from her chest. Jiang Lu swallowed hard. Wen Ning, you blow dry your hair first, I'm going to sleep first. After saying that, Jiang Lu sulked on the bed, lying on the outside, taking up the whole bed and obviously not leaving any room for Wen Ning. He didn't want Wen Ning to sleep in his room either, and he didn't want to share the bed with Wen Ning. After what Wen Ning had done to him, he didn't want to share the bed with her. Jiang Lu closed his eyes. After a while, he heard light footsteps, and then felt a soft object in his arms. Jiang Lu opened his eyes in surprise. Wen Ning was lying next to him, one hand resting on his chest, her pale legs brushing against his. Jiang Lu rolled over and got up, looking at the woman in front of him defensively. What are you doing? Wen Ning propped her forehead on one hand, her slightly curled hair falling onto the bed and slowly spreading to her full chest. She raised the corner of her eyes and said, sleeping. Jiang Lu secretly glanced at Wen Ning's chest. The cleavage was obvious, with half of the snow-white skin exposed. You demon woman! You're sleeping, why are you lying in my arms? Wen Ning straightened up, and her jade-like fingers pinched Jiang Luo's face. You're my boyfriend, who else's arms would I lie in if not yours? The woman in front of him smiled charmingly. She was so cold and indifferent outside, but why did she look so different in bed? Jiang Luo didn't understand, so he took away Wen Ning's hand and curled up in the corner, huddled up pitifully, afraid of being bullied by this demon woman again. Wen Ning simply stopped sleeping, lying next to Jiang Luo, propping her face up with one hand and pinching Jiang Luo's red ears. Jiang Luo, I'm your girlfriend, not a jackal or a tiger. Why are you so afraid of me? I'm not. I'm going to sleep now, and you should sleep early too. You have to go to work tomorrow. Jiang Luo held the quilt over herself, so Wen Ning couldn't touch her. Wen Ning's hand finally calmed down, and she sat up from the bed and went to the next room. What if she scared her little boyfriend and he had to run away every day in the future? She didn't want to chain someone up. Hearing a noise, Jiang Luo peeked out secretly. Wen Ning had already left, and he let out a sigh of relief. He lifted the quilt and felt hot all over, blaming the demon girl. When would he finally be able to escape from Wen Ning's clutches? The next day, Jiang Luo finished eating and was preparing to go to the central hospital. He was holding a thermos in his hand, which contained a nutritious breakfast that the kitchen had prepared especially for patients. Wen Ning tidied up Jiang Luo's clothes, saw him to the car, and reminded him, drive carefully and come back early. I know. Jiang Luo unceremoniously rolled up the window. He was not a 3-year-old child, so of course he would pay attention to safety. The several female bodyguards next to him obviously raised their eyebrows. This boy was quite bold, daring to give them a cold shoulder. Unfortunately, Wen Ning didn't care and got into another car. The hospital room. There were several members of the Jiang family inside, Jiang Huasong sitting next to Grandma Jiang, next to her was Mrs. Jiang, and Jiang Hui. Jiang Luo opened the door and greeted everyone. Luo is here. Grandma Jiang couldn't stop smiling when she saw Jiang Luo, and called him over to her side. Jiang Luo placed the incubator on the table and said, Grandma, I brought you breakfast. Jiang Luo placed the thermos on the table and said to her grandmother, Grandma, I brought you breakfast. Jiang Luo's grandmother was delighted to see her grandson, but Jiang Luo's wife, Jiang Jia, looked at the food and frowned. She said, Is this really suitable for Grandma? It's not going to be a steamed bun and a plate of vegetables, is it? We've also brought Grandma the most nutritious breakfast. Jiang Luo's grandmother's face did not show any smile, and she spoke crisply, Jiang Luo, what you brought is not suitable for Grandma to eat, so you keep it for yourself. Today, we've brought Grandma something delicious. There were several plates of fresh dishes on the table, including just finished stewed chicken and a bowl of fish soup. In the past, Jiang Lu would have thought this was a very good meal, but he had seen better ones than this, and he had eaten them every day. Jiang Hui crossed his arms and looked at Jiang Lu with contempt. Brother, you've never seen such a good meal, right? Otherwise, after Grandma finishes eating, you can have some too. People like Jiang Lu, who have always stayed in the countryside, have no idea what this is. This is top-quality tropical fish. For people like Jiang Lu, even if they study very hard, they cannot change their fate of being a person from the lowest class. Unlike him, he was born as the young master of the Jiang family. Even if he failed to get into Tsinghua University, his father would take care of the aftermath for him. Jiang's father smiled and said, Xiao Hui is right. Xiao Luo, you should eat some too. You look so thin, you need to replenish your energy. Jiang Luo refused, then opened his cooler and took out abalone, ginseng, shark's fin, deer antler, and a pot of Buddha jumps over the wall. Jiang Hui was shocked, his eyes bulging like copper bells, and he almost fell to the ground. Jiang Luo, where did you steal all this from? Even if it was their family, they couldn't eat this every day, just once in a while. Jiang's mother and father were also shocked. Logically, Jiang Luo should only be able to eat buns and steamed buns. I heard that he doesn't even have enough money for college, so how can he afford all this? Jiang Luo's mother frowned and said, Luo, where did you steal all this from? It's not good to get into the bad habit of stealing. Although you did it for your grandmother, you should return it quickly. Jiang Luo looked up at Jiang Luo's mother and gave a faint smile. If it wasn't stolen, does that mean in your heart I'm someone who only knows how to steal? Of course not. Luo, don't get me wrong. I'm just worried about you. Jiang Luo whispered and explained, Auntie Jiang, don't worry. These things were made in my friend's kitchen at home. Jiang's mother asked, Luo, your friend? How can your friend be so rich? Aren't your friends from the countryside? Jiang Hui snorted, mumbling, even if it were our family, the kitchen doesn't have this kind of thing. It's just a friend of mine, and she's been very nice to me. Zhang Luo didn't want to explain any further, and handed the chopsticks to Zhang's grandmother. Grandma, let's eat. Okay. Zhang's grandmother ate with a smile on her face, and her mood improved when she saw Zhang Luo. Mrs. Zhang's face twitched slightly, and she glared at Zhang Huasong and whispered, "You just said you didn't have an appetite, but now that Zhang Lu brought you food, you suddenly do. It's obvious that you're biased, and you've always favored Zhang Lu, while Zhang Huai has never even looked at her." Zhang Huasong tugged at Zhang Huai's mother's arm to indicate that she should stop talking. Zhang Huai suddenly asked, "Brother, I heard that you got into Daida too? We'll be classmates in the future." "You got into Daida?" Zhang Luo was a little surprised. Zhang Huai was always at the bottom of the class, with double-digit grades, and was still 500 or 600 points short of the score needed to get into Imperial University. Chapter 12:12 Did you have fun on your date with your female classmate? Yes. Zhang Huai tilted his head arrogantly. His father had spent more than 5 million yuan to build a small sports ground for the school. Zhang Luo guessed in his heart that it must have cost a lot of money to get in. Zhang Huasong asked again, "Luolu, the top scorer in the college entrance exam this time seems to be surnamed Zhang. Is it you?" He always knew that Zhang Luo's academic performance was particularly good, and that she had always been the top student in her grade since childhood, while Zhang Huai had always been the bottom. "It should be." Zhang Luo nodded indifferently. Zhang Huai couldn't believe it and widened his eyes, pointing at Zhang Luo and exclaiming, "The top scorer in the college entrance exam? It's you?" "Yes, it's me." Zhang Luo's face didn't show any extra expression, as if it were a very ordinary thing. Zhang Huai gritted his teeth in anger. This Zhang Luo is now pretending to be something, but so what if he is the top scorer in the college entrance exam? He is still a lowly laborer. Maybe he will even work under him in the future. When he inherits the Zhang group, he will be the boss, and Zhang Luo will always be a laborer. Zhang Luo's mother's face changed, and she said, "Zhang Luo, you have achieved such a good result. You will be going to college in the imperial capital, so why don't you just live at home in the future?" Zhang Luo looked up and politely said, "Thank you, Aunt Zhang, but no." Zhang's mother smiled and said, "Why are you suddenly being so polite? You're calling me Aunt Zhang, and I'm not used to it. You used to call me Mom." Zhang Luo didn't reply, and his eyes drooped. "I have a place to live." Zhang's mother didn't say anything else. After all, Zhang Luo wasn't her biological child, so how could she be affectionate towards him? She didn't really want Zhang Luo to live at home, but she was just being polite. After they left, Zhang Jia and his entourage got into their luxury car. Zhang Jia rolled down the window and raised the corner of his lips. "Brother, do you need a ride?" "No, I'll just take a taxi." Zhang Jia's smile became even more contemptuous. "Take a taxi? Then you wait here. A person of Zhang Luo's lowly status is only worthy of taking a taxi." The car left, leaving Zhang Luo standing alone. A moment later, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom stopped next to Zhang Luo. Su Jin rolled down the window and asked, "Young Master Zhang Luo, do you want to go back now?" Su Jin was the driver assigned by Wen Ning to Zhang Luo. She was Su Qi's younger sister, with a sweet appearance and a soft voice. Zhang Luo said, "No, you can go back first. I have some things to take care of on the street over there. I'll go back tonight." "Where are you going, young Master Zhang Luo?" "I'll give you a ride." "Thank you, but you don't need to trouble yourself. You go home first." Zhang Lu turned and left, hailed a Didi taxi on the roadside, and went to Huafeng Street. Zhang Lu got out of the car, and Zhang Yi was already waiting there. She was wearing a white dress, her hair up in a bun, pure and lovely. "Zhang Lu, you've finally come, I thought you weren't coming. The movie is about to start, let's go, let's get something to eat." "Okay." The two walked together, like a young couple out shopping. Zhang Yi bought popcorn and milk tea. Zhang Luo was about to enter the cinema when Wen Ning sent him a few messages. "Where have you been? Why didn't you let Su Jin follow you?" "I came out to watch a movie, a popular anime movie recently, I quite like it, so I came to watch it." "Anime?" Wen Ning, who was in a meeting, frowned slightly. She heard that boys of that age like that kind of anime movie, she has never seen it. The group of senior executives who were in a meeting looked at each other. "Didn't they say that you can't play with your phone during a meeting?" President Wen was chatting with someone else and wasn't listening to their report. Wen Ning replied again, "I'll watch it with you next time." "No need, I'm in good company. I'm watching it with a classmate and we're going in now." Wen Ning's face changed slightly. A classmate? A female classmate? Jiang Luo simply sent an emoticon of a nod. A chill ran through Wen Ning's body, and the whole meeting room became cold and piercing. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's going on? Has the temperature suddenly dropped? Jiang Lu waited for a while, but did not receive a response from Wen Ning. Zhang Yi urged from the side, Jiang Lu, let's hurry up and go in, we'll be late. Okay. The two entered the movie theater together. Zhang Yi was not at all interested in this type of anime, and wanted to take Jiang Lu's hand, but Jiang Lu had no interest in that at all, and sat there watching the movie intently. Zhang Yi leaned back and fell asleep, and Jiang Lu watched the entire movie alone. Zhang Yi, don't sleep, the movie's over. It's over, let's go. Zhang Yi rubbed his eyes, stood up and tried to take Jiang Luo's hand again, but Jiang Luo didn't see him and walked quickly ahead, so Zhang Yi couldn't catch up. Jiang Luo, wait for me. Jiang Luo stopped walking only then. This anime was quite good, he wondered when the next season would be. Really? Zhang Yi nodded absent-mindedly, keeping his eyes on Jiang Luo's hand, and his fingers lightly touched the back of his hand. She hung her head in embarrassment and whispered, Jiang Lu, where do you live? Can I go there tonight? Jiang Lu said sincerely, where I live doesn't have a place for you to sleep. I can. I can sleep with you. We slept together when we were little, Zhang Yi said in a low voice. Jiang Lu scratched his head. That was when they were little, and it might not be convenient now. Zhang Yi's face fell. She added, Jiang Lu, let's go eat lunch together. I know you like fried noodles. Okay. The two of them ate a meal of fried noodles in a simple restaurant. When they came out, Zhang Yi took a keychain out of her pocket and slipped it into Jiang Lu's hand. I bought this keychain, and I bought an extra one, so I'll give it to you, Jiang Lu. I'll go first, and we can meet again next time. Zhang Yi finished speaking and left without looking back, leaving Jiang Lu standing in the same place, holding a blue keychain in his hand. A keychain? After all, it was a gift from someone else, so it would be a pity to throw it away. So Jiang Luo stuffed the keychain into his pocket. Maybe it would be useful to keep it. He took a taxi home, and Wen Ning had not yet finished work. The house was full of maids busy cleaning. Jiang Luo watched curiously as these maids kept cleaning the house, because this manor was really too big. Jiang Luo sat on the sofa, bored, and picked up his phone to play a game for a while. A beautiful maid put a tray of cut fruit on the table. Young Master Jiang Luo, please have some fruit first. Manager Wen will be right back. Jiang Luo nodded perfunctorily. He felt that it was quite nice when Wen Ning was not around, as no one was touching him. Speaking of the devil, Wen Ning finished work early today and arrived home at a little after 3 p.m., stepping in high heels and looking very imposing. The servants nearby lowered their heads. Jiang Luo had just eaten a piece of fruit, and the first thing he saw were a pair of long, straight legs. He looked up and said, Wen Ning, you're back. Wen Ning bent down, her black pupils flashing with coldness. She pushed Jiang Luo against the sofa and said in a cold voice, did you have fun on your date with that girl from school today? Chapter 13:13 Maybe there's already a child of yours in there. Jiang Luo explained seriously, no, I'm not going out with him, we're just ordinary classmates, going to the movies together. Wen Ning took Jiang Luo's hand and asked coldly, classmates? Going to the movies? Did she touch your hand? No, I didn't. Jiang Luo tried to pull his hand out, but Wen Ning's strength was too great, and those hands went to touch his face again. How about here? Jiang Luo shook his head, no, she's just an ordinary female classmate, the two of us never had any physical contact. No? Wen Ning's eyelids drooped, her eyes were dark and intimidating, if you dare let her touch your hand, I'll chop off that woman's hand. Jiang Luo shuddered in fear, really, no, I swear. Zhang Yi said she was a good friend who grew up with him. When they were young, they even dug bird holes together. Although he didn't like Zhang Yi, he didn't want her to lose her hand either. This woman is so vicious. Jiang Lu was pinned against the sofa by Wen Ning and couldn't move. He pushed her arm hard and said, Wen Ning, let go of me. Wen Ning pinched Jiang Lu's chin and her eyes darkened. From now on, you are not allowed to go out alone with other women. I just live here, why do you want to restrict my freedom? You have no right to restrict my freedom. No right? You forgot, your grandmother. Jiang Luo immediately said, I won't talk to other female classmates. I won't say it, Wen Ning, I won't say it. Wen Ning was finally satisfied and whispered, "That's good. What did you eat for lunch today?" Zhang Luo blurted out, "I ate fried noodles with Zhang Yi. The fried noodles there are pretty good, only 8 yuan. Zhang Yi? Eating together? It seems that you get along well." Zhang Lu said seriously, "She is my classmate, just a very ordinary classmate. I have never held hands with her. I'll believe you for now. Tomorrow I'll go to the movies with you. Which anime movie do you like?" Wen Ning took out her phone to buy tickets. But she didn't really know much about anime movies, so she let Jiang Lu choose for himself. "You still have work, aren't you busy? Do you have time to go to the movies with me?" "I don't really want to go." He didn't want to spend any time alone with Wen Ning at all. This woman would touch him all over and kiss him. Jiang Lu had never even been in a relationship before, and now this woman had just knocked him over. How could he not be angry? Wen Ning's face fell a little. She didn't want to watch it. "Why did you want to watch it with her and not with me? Do you like her?" Jiang Lu picked a romantic anime about a beautiful love story just to get Wen Ning to leave Zhang Yi alone. He actually really wanted a sweet love story too. But they were all ruined by this woman in front of him. Wen Ning glanced at the name, Yu Tianqing. A beautiful, pure love anime, the kind that Zhang Luo, an 18 or 19-year-old guy, would watch. Zhang Luo nodded, "Yes, let's watch this one. I've already watched the ones on top." Wen Wan pursed her lips. "Sis, aren't you usually busy on weekends too? I want you to go shopping with me, but you don't have time, and now you're even going to the movies with Zhang Luo. You have plenty of classmates to go shopping with you." "Those are my classmates, not my sister." Wen Wan lowered her head and continued playing the game. Her sister had already fallen for Zhang Luo's charms. She thought her sister was not attracted to men, never had a boyfriend, and yet she had fallen for an 18-year-old boy. Wen Wan shook her head. Could it be that her sister really liked this type of boy? "I'll go shopping with you next time I'm free, but tomorrow I want to go to the movies with Zhang Luo." Zhang Luo muttered, "You don't actually have to go to the movies with me, you can go shopping with Wen Wan." Wen Ning slowly turned her head and squeezed Zhang Luo's wrist. "Don't want me to go? Do you want to go to the movies with another female classmate tomorrow?" "No, I have to work tomorrow. It's not good to keep taking time off, even though the manager pays me." Wen Ning said in a low voice, "Work? I pay you so much money, why do you still need to work? I won't allow you to stand there and be looked at by other women. From now on, stay at home and behave yourself." Zhang Luo pulled back his hand. "I don't want to stay at home all the time. Wen Ning, I promise to be your boyfriend. I promise not to talk to other girls. You are mine, how can I let other people look at you? You just stay at home and play games when you are not busy." Wen Ning patiently negotiated with Zhang Luo. "No, I have to earn my living expenses. Manager Lee has finally given me a pay rise, 8,000 yuan a month. I can earn more than 10,000 yuan in 2 months." Zhang Luo took Wen Ning's hand and whispered, "Wen Ning, I promise I won't talk to other girls, not to mention that no other woman is as pretty as you." Wen Ning's eyes flickered slightly. "Okay, I can let you go to work." Zhang Luo said happily, "Then cancel the ticket for tomorrow. I want to work. Tomorrow is the weekend, you don't need to go to work, let's go on a date." "Don't dates involve going to the movies?" Zhang Luo twitched the corner of his mouth. "I was careless, tomorrow is actually the weekend." In the evening, Zhang Luo locked his door several times, but this time, surprisingly, Wen Ning didn't come to his room. "Great, I can finally sleep well." Zhang Luo closed his eyes, and suddenly there was a soft object next to him. He lifted his arm and hugged it. "It's so soft," Zhang Luo rubbed it again. He woke up the next day and realized it was Wen Ning. Her skin was cold and white, her face delicate and desolate, wearing only an ultra-thin silk nightgown that revealed her emaciated shoulders and the roundness of her breasts. Zhang Luo swallowed and quietly took his hands off her waist. He was hugging Wen Ning. And had held her all night. But Wen Ning had a great figure, with long, white legs and pretty feet with nail art and a few pearls. Zhang Lu looked at her for a long time, then lifted his hand and poked the woman in the face. So soft. His gaze swept over Wen Ning's chest, which was actually also very soft. He had pinched it that night, and Wen Ning had forced him to touch it. At this moment, Wen Ning suddenly opened her eyes, rolled over, and pinned the man underneath her. Touching me secretly? Ha! Jiang Lu immediately shook his head to deny it. No, I didn't. I was just watching you without waking up, trying to wake you up. How did you get in last night? I told you last time, this is my place. Of course I have a way to get in. Even if you put on 2 more locks, I can still get in. A soft mass was pressed against his chest. Jiang Luo felt a little warmth in his body, and his ears were tinged with blood. He deliberately turned his head to the side. Wen Ning, can you get off me first? Wen Ning deliberately leaned in, breathing hot air in Jiang Luo's ear. We've done everything, why are you still blushing? While talking, Wen Ning took one of Jiang Luo's big hands and placed it on her stomach, raising the corner of her lips. Maybe there's already a child of yours here. Chapter 14:14 Jiang Luo, how about I give you a daughter? Jiang Luo felt like he had touched something hot, and immediately took his hand away, his face turning red. You're talking nonsense, how could that be possible? Wen Ning whispered, why not? You were also very good that night, maybe there really is your child here. Do you like daughters or sons? I don't like children. Wen Ning, let go of me. You're so rich and pretty, you can find any boyfriend you want. Why do you have to pick me? I'm just a college student, I don't have anything. Jiang Luo's ears turned bright red. Although he had never been in love before, he knew common sense. He didn't wear a condom that night. This matter has already exceeded his ability to handle. But I just like you, and I want to give you a child. The baby might look as good as you. Wen Ning lifted Jiang Luo's chin and kissed him. She liked him at first sight, so she gave up the cold water bath and brought him directly here. Such a clean and kind boy can only be hers. Wen Ning whispered in Jiang Luo's ear, Jiang Luo, how about I bear you a daughter? No, I don't want a child. Wen Ning, please, let me go. Jiang Luo felt hot all over, and pushed the woman on top of him hard. He hadn't even graduated from university yet, and he didn't want a child so soon. Children were the most annoying thing in the world, they were so noisy. Let you go? Wen Ning looked at Jiang Luo's face and fell into deep thought. How could she possibly let him go? Don't worry, our daughter will be beautiful. Jiang Luo was being pressed by Wen Ning, who was kissing and touching him, and he had already become numb. It turned out that looking good was also a burden. Wen Ning must like his face, but he didn't want to ruin it. Wen Ning's last kiss landed on Jiang Luo's Adam's apple, and he finally let him go, getting up from him. Let's go eat first, and after we eat, we'll go on a proper date. The movie is in the afternoon. Jiang Luo nodded carelessly, then pushed the person out of the room and locked the door before he dared to change. Wen Ning stood in a daze at the door, probably because it was the first time General Wen had been kicked out, so it was a bit of a surprise. No one but Jiang Luo would dare to push Wen Ning out the door. Jiang Luo picked out a white short-sleeved shirt and long white casual pants from the closet, and then paired them with a pair of white shoes. He then messed around with his hair in the mirror. Jiang Luo finished washing up and left the room. Wen Ning was still standing outside, wearing a super short black dress and pajama top. Jiang Luo immediately leaned over to look around the corridor, and there was no man in sight. Wen Ning raised her eyebrows, what was she looking at? Jiang Luo's tone was anxious, Wen Ning, why are you standing here with your clothes on, what if someone sees you? Wen Ning raised the corners of her eyes, smiling faintly, deliberately moving closer to Jiang Luo, Are you so afraid that I will be seen by others? Jiang Luo whispered a cunning argument, I just think you're wearing too little, it's not good to be seen by others. Don't worry, no one dares to come up to the second floor without my orders, no one can see me like this, except you. His pale fingers hooked his collar, and Jiang Luo immediately took away Wen Ning's hand and said with righteous words, don't touch me anymore, I've already agreed to go on a date with you today, go and change. Wen Ning let out a low laugh. He really is a little prude, with all his formalities. It was just one time she forced him. And now he still remembers. It was also her first time. Wen Ning went back to her room, and Jiang Lu hurried downstairs with her long, slender legs, sitting on the sofa in shock. She had been bullied by Wen Ning in the morning, and Jiang Lu was both angry and furious. When Wan was getting ready to eat dinner, and she looked up and asked, Jiang Lu, where's my sister? She's getting dressed. After saying that, Wen Ning stepped down the stairs in her high heels. A short, black velvet dress showed off her slender figure, her long, straight legs were clad in black stockings, and she wore a pair of simple black high heels. Her big, wavy curls fell slowly down her chest, and her face was cold and charming, with slightly upturned eyes, breathtakingly beautiful. Jiang Luo couldn't help but stare twice. He admitted that Wen Ning was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, more beautiful than a celebrity. Her beauty was otherworldly, and she was so beautiful that people didn't dare to touch her. But she was a different person in bed, forcing him and touching him. Zhang Luo got angry just thinking about it, and decisively turned back. No more looking, no matter how beautiful she is, he won't like her. Ah! Sister, you are so beautiful, you are even more beautiful than those female celebrities I chase after. If you become a celebrity, those people will definitely have no food to eat. Wen Wan was flattering Wen Ning, but she wasn't really flattering her. She was just telling the truth. Wen Ning walked over to Zhang Luo in her high heels, bent down and asked, "Do you like this dress?" "Huh? You're asking me?" Zhang Luo looked at Wen Ning's dress. It was a short, slim-fitting skirt, with a nice silhouette and color. Zhang Luo deliberately said, "I don't like it." "You don't like it? What type of clothes do you like? Tell me next time." Zhang Lu deliberately said, "I like girls who like to wear white dresses, and they have to have a particularly sweet smile." In fact, he didn't like that kind of girl either, he just wanted to antagonize Wen Ning. Wen Ning muttered to herself, "I don't have a white dress, I'll buy one next time." During the meal, Zhang Lu kept stealing glances at Wen Ning. She looked good in this kind of casual short skirt. After the meal, Wen Ning still accompanied Zhang Lu to the hospital. Zhang Luo didn't want Wen Ning to come with them, but her grandmother would be happy to see her, and she liked Wen Ning. This time, the ward was empty, and the Zhang family just came to pay a visit to Zhang's grandmother. Zhang's father didn't even dare to ask about the medical expenses. Wen Ning opened the door, holding a thermos in one hand and Zhang Luo's hand in the other, and went to Zhang's grandmother's bedside. The old woman looked much better, and seemed to be recovering. Luo and Ning are here. The young couple are still holding hands. What a loving couple. Ning puts the cooler on the table and opens it to reveal a variety of expensive dishes. "Grandma, Luo and I have come to bring you breakfast. It's still hot, so eat it while it's warm." Grandma Jiang smiles and says, "If you're busy, you don't have to bring me breakfast every day. The carers I hired are quite good and can also buy me food." "Grandma, I'm not busy, I'll come and bring you food every day from now on." Grandma Jiang smiled and shook Zhang Luo's hand. She loved her son and grandson, but her grandson was not as filial as she would like. "You two are going on a date today, right? It's the weekend, don't let Grandma delay you, go quickly." Zhang Luo stammered and denied, "Grandma, it's not like that. He doesn't want to go on a date with Wen Ning, they just went to the movies together." Chapter 15:15 Dreaming of his lovely daughter, Zhang Luo called Nuonyuo out of the ward. Wen Ning took the initiative to hold Zhang Luo's hand and asked, "Where do you want to go today?" Zhang Luo said deliberately, "Let's go to the shooting range. I like shooting quite a bit. Most women don't like that kind of thing at all. What they like the most are the rides at the amusement park." Wen Ning raised her eyebrows. "I like shooting too. I didn't think you liked it too. It can't be someone I like. Let's go to the biggest shooting range in the capital." Zhang Luo drew back his lips. This woman is really not an ordinary woman. Which woman would like shooting as a sport? Then, Zhang Luo was taken to Shangshi by Wen Ning. Shangshi is the largest entertainment venue in the imperial capital. The basement level is a casino, where all kinds of people come and go, a mixed crowd. The shooting range is on the second floor, and there was no one there when Zhang Luo entered. "Where is Wen Ning?" There were so many people on the first floor, but why was there no one on the second floor? Su Qi shrugged, she would never say that Wen always booked the second floor just to come here and shoot with her boyfriend. Wen Ning casually said, "Maybe they don't like the activities here." "Isn't it about shooting?" "Zhang Luo, get the guns." Zhang Luo picked up the shooting guns. He had been playing games on his phone the whole time, so he was a little excited when he touched this thing for the first time. Wen Ning raised her chin and said, "Zhang Luo, why don't the two of us compete to see who can hit the most?" Zhang Luo may look weak, but he is not weak at all when it comes to shooting. Wen Ning is a woman, but she is no match for Zhang Luo. The two are surprisingly similar in speed, and they hit the same number of targets. Zhang Luo continues to shoot with both hands, and another 9.8 ring is scored. Wen Ning sees that he is so serious, so she slows down her pace. Zhang Luo shoots 65 targets in 2 minutes and wins the game in one fell swoop. A smile hung on his handsome face, and he raised his eyebrows. "Wen Ning, what do you think? Did I win?" Su Qi touched her nose and didn't say anything. She wouldn't say it. Wen's worst score was 85 targets in 2 minutes, and as for the best score, there were more than 100. Wen Ning praised, "Zhang Lu, you're so good at shooting, do you want to play something else? I'll accompany you. Last time I used a gun, this time I'll use a bow and arrow, let's play again." Zhang Luo picked up the bow and arrow. He had only seen these kind of bows and arrows at international competitions. They felt heavy in his hands. Then he shot an arrow, which fell straight to the ground. Sure enough, archery was much more difficult than shooting. Zhang Luo glanced at Wen Ning secretly, but luckily she didn't notice. Was it too late to regret it? He didn't want to compete in this anymore. Wen Ning picked up the bow and arrow, drew the bow with 2 fingers, and with a whoosh, the bow and arrow hit the bullseye directly, a 10 ring. Zhang Luo looked at Wen Ning in shock. What couldn't this woman do? Zhang Luo had already been dealt a blow and was about to put down the bow and arrow, but Wen Ning held his hand. "I'll teach you." Wen Ning adjusted Zhang Luo's posture and taught him hand in hand. Zhang Luo felt the soft hands on his hands, and Wen Ning's body was pressed against his back, a little distracted. "Look at the front." "Oh, okay." Zhang Luo looked at the target in front of him and shot an arrow with Wen Ning's help. An 8 ring was already a very good score. Unfortunately, Zhang Luo was not satisfied and kept practicing. Wen Ning slowly guided him next to him. Finally, the arrow shot by Zhang Luo hit the bullseye. A 10 ring. Not bad, to be able to score a 10 in such a short time. You have a lot of talent in this area. Zhang Luo was embarrassed by the praise and scratched his head. "Thank you. What else do you want to do?" "I'll keep you company." Zhang Luo went to the horse farm again, played golf, and experienced all the high-level activities he wanted to do. In the past, he had only seen them on TV, and he never imagined that he could actually do them. After dinner at the restaurant, the two went to the cinema. Wen Ning had never watched a movie before because she thought it was so stupid, but now she was willing to watch one for Zhang Lu. Zhang Lu bought popcorn for Wen Ning himself. "You want to buy this too?" "Well, I saw everyone else buying it." Zhang Lu stuffed the popcorn into Wen Ning's arms. Wen Ning had never tried this kind of snack before, it was sweet and surprisingly good. "Oh my sister and brother are here together to watch a movie. They are so good-looking. So beautiful, so handsome." A pretty young lady walked up to Zhang Luo and said, "Young man, can I add you on WeChat?" Before Zhang Luo could say anything, Wen Ning said coldly, "This is my boyfriend." "What do you want?" "Boyfriend? Aren't they brother and sister?" The pretty young lady was shocked and left, covering her mouth in surprise. Wen Ning took Zhang Lu's hand and they went in. After sitting down, Wen Ning stuffed a popcorn into Zhang Lu's mouth. It was very sweet. Zhang Lu pursed her lips. She had accidentally bitten Wen Ning's hand earlier, and was embarrassed. Wen Ning stayed with Zhang Lu until the movie was over. The ending was not very good. When they came out, Zhang Lu muttered, "The ending is very sad. Why can't the two of them be together even though they like each other? Too many concerns, just take it back." Wen Ning finished speaking and took Zhang Luo's hand. Overbearing. Zhang Luo pulled his hand back, not letting her touch it. Wen Ning grabbed Zhang Luo's hand again and gave it a gentle squeeze. Zhang Luo didn't pull his hand away again. He waited a little longer, waiting for him to go to university and live in the dorms, so that he wouldn't have to face Wen Ning every day. Zhang Luo silently thought about it, looking forward to the day of the semester's start. His biggest worry now was Wen Ning's stomach. He hoped that she wasn't really pregnant, because he didn't want to become a father so young. He didn't think so. It was only the one time, so the chances were very slim. That night, Zhang Lu had a dream in which he really had a daughter. The little girl was especially beautiful, with a pretty little face that was white and tender, and big, dark, round eyes like grapes. She was hugging his leg and calling him daddy. Dad epsilon equals sad face. Hugs. Zhang Lu bent down, hugged the little milk ball, kissed the baby's little face, and said, "You're such a good baby, you're daddy's good baby." "You're his daughter?" Zhang Lu sat up abruptly, a cold sweat broke out on his head, not sure if he was scared or what. How could he have such a cute daughter? Just one look and it melted his heart. Could it be that today, when he thought about Wen Ning being pregnant, he had just had a dream? How could it be such a coincidence? No, it couldn't be, absolutely not. Chapter 16:16 This demon woman is seducing him again, and touching him. After Jiang Lu got up, he kept staring at Wen Ning's stomach. Wen Ning's waist was very thin, not even worth holding, and her belly was very flat. Could there really be a child in there? I don't think so. Jiang Lu almost put his head inside. Wen Ning wondered, Jiang Lu, what are you looking at so intently? Is there something on me? Or is it just that I don't look good in today's clothes? Wen Ning was wearing a long, black dress with a high slit, showing off her fair, slender legs, and she was wearing high heels of the same color. No, it's not that. Jiang Lu sat down absent-mindedly to eat. It's not that coincidental, just that one time. No, he doesn't want a baby, not at all. But when he thought about the daughter in his dream last night, softly hugging his neck and calling him daddy, Jiang Lu felt like his heart was going to melt. He really wanted a cute daughter. If he had a daughter in the future, he would call her Nuoneo. But he was still in college, and couldn't afford to raise a baby. Eat more. Wen Ning continued to pick food for Jiang Lu, and Jiang Lu pushed the white rice around, not wanting to eat the food Wen Ning had picked for him. It's delicious, try it. Wen Ning took the chopsticks and put them in Jiang Luo's mouth for him to eat. Jiang Luo moved his mouth and chewed gently. Wen Ning is still so overbearing, forcing him to eat even if he doesn't want to. But the dish is actually quite tasty, so Jiang Luo took a few more bites. Jiang Luo, take your time eating, I'm going to the office first. If you need anything, give me a call. Wen Ning received a phone call, grabbed her bag, and stepped out of the living room in her high heels. She hurriedly got into the car, looking like she had something urgent to take care of. After finishing eating, Jiang Luo went to the Tianqing Hotel to work after delivering the food to Jiang's grandmother. Manager Li saw the person arrive and was beaming, his attitude very polite. Jiang Luo, why are you here today? Didn't you say you wanted to take a few days off to take care of your grandmother? You don't need to come to work, I'll pay you as usual. Jiang Luo said, thank you, Manager Li. My grandmother's condition has improved, so I can come back to work. I'll go back to be with her at night. It's not good to keep taking time off. The hotel will also suffer losses, right? Manager Li was so moved that he almost cried. What kind of boy is this, a godsend, who is still concerned about the hotel's losses? He is worthy of General Wen's attention. He has a big vision, and he will definitely not remain a nobody in the future. Okay, then you can stay on duty here. You can leave work at 4 o'clock in the evening. Jiang Lu was puzzled, 4 o'clock? Wasn't it 6 o'clock before? Sometimes I work overtime until 8 o'clock. Why is it that I'm leaving work so early? He didn't want to leave work so early. After he left work, he would have to be kissed and touched by Wen Ning again. Recently, the company has changed the rules, and everyone goes home early. If you have something to do in the afternoon, you can go home early, or you don't have to work in the afternoon, because it's too hot. Jiang Lu immediately said, I'm on duty. I can't just take the company's money for nothing. It's not too hot here, there's air conditioning. Jiang Lu stood at the door on duty. The receptionist said a few words to him from time to time, and the hotel also provided lunch at noon. At 4 p.m., Jiang Lu did not leave, but continued to work here on duty. He didn't want to go back at all. Jiang Luo, it's time, you have to go, hurry back. Manager Li urged from the side, anxious for him to go home quickly, afraid that General Wen would find him here. Manager Li, I'll stay on duty for a while longer, it's still early and there's a lot of foot traffic. Manager Li continued, no, you should go back quickly, it's so hot right now, what if you get heat stroke? Go back and rest. The boss urged the employee to go off duty. It was the first time he had seen this happen, and everyone around him was shocked. Then Jiang Luo was kicked out. Yes, he was kicked out, begged by the manager to go home. As soon as he came out, the familiar car stopped by the roadside. Jiang Luo took off running, and the car caught up with him and stopped next to him. The window was rolled down, and a woman's face appeared. What are you running for? Get in. Jiang Luo obediently sat next to Wen Ning, looking like a model student, a top student with excellent grades. The more Wen Ning looked at his prim and proper appearance, the more she wanted to tease him, and her long fingers ravaged his face. Jiang Luo, you didn't even look at me once you got in the car. I'm your girlfriend, your future wife, and the mother of your daughter. Really, you didn't look at me? Wen Ning breathed hot air in Jiang Luo's ear and spoke in a soft, gentle voice. Jiang Luo felt his ears itch, and the itch spread to his heart. This demon woman is seducing him again and touching him. Jiang Lu moved back, hiding himself in the corner, trying to get Wen Ning to let him go. I don't want a daughter, and I don't want a wife. Wen Ning, you're so outstanding, there must be a lot of people who like you. I'm just a college student, I have nothing, I have no money and no power. Wen Ning kissed Jiang Luo's lips gently and whispered, but I like you. What do you say? Jiang Luo twisted his face to the side and wouldn't let her kiss him. If you like something about me, I can change it. Wen Ning's jade-like fingers slowly moved down Jiang Luo's abdomen. I like everything about you. How about I cut it off? Jiang Luo's pupils suddenly contracted, and he immediately covered both hands tightly. How can you? Wen Ning let out a low chuckle, teasing you, how could I bear to? Did any other women at work ask you for your WeChat today and talk to them? No, I didn't say a word. Wen Ning, you can trust me. Of course I trust you, don't be so scared of me, I'm not a jackal or a tiger, I'm your girlfriend. Wen Ning pressed her forehead against Jiang Luo's, you treat me as your girlfriend, take my hand. Jiang Luo obediently took Wen Ning's hand. Her hand was slender and long, very pretty, and Jiang Luo couldn't help but squeeze it. But Wen Ning was 6 years older than him, not his type, so there was no way he could treat her as his girlfriend. Luo, come to mommy. In his memory, there was a white figure, which should be his mother. Unfortunately, he couldn't remember what she looked like, but he was sure that she must have been a very gentle woman. So, he just liked very gentle women. Wen Ning is not a gentle woman, she is cold and aloof, and by her side is a nagging temptress. Jiang Luo continues to hold Wen Ning's hand, obediently acting as her boyfriend. It's just that Wen Ning can save his grandmother. 1 month later. Grandma Jiang has had her final checkup, her health has recovered, and she is finally being discharged from the hospital. Jiang Luo has been extremely excited all day, he is finally going to escape from Wen Ning's clutches. He is going to go home with his grandmother. Early the next morning, Jiang Luo started packing. His closet was full of clothes that Wen Ning had bought for him, so he just grabbed a couple of them. She had also bought his shoes and socks, and even his underwear. Wen Ning had been pretty good to him, so should he go say goodbye to her before leaving? Chapter 17:17 You sleep with me for 10,000 a night. Jiang Luo went downstairs. Wen Ning was sitting on the sofa in a black, form-fitting dress, typing on the computer at a fast pace. In order not to disturb Wen Ning's work, Jiang Luo sat next to her and waited for a while, then leaned over to take a look. Wen Ning stopped what she was doing, turned her head, and the tips of their noses touched. What's wrong? Jiang Lu stammered, no, it's fine. My grandmother has recovered and can be discharged from the hospital. I'm going to take her home today. Home? You mean you won't be living here anymore? Well, I should say so. I'm going to live at home with my grandmother. Wen Ning's cold gaze swept over Jiang Lu, who immediately lowered his head. This was the first time he had seen Wen Ning so angry. Wen Ning looked up and said coldly, Suchi, tell him how much it cost to keep Grandma Jiang in the hospital during this time. Suchi took out a calculator and did some calculations. Young Master Jiang Luo, Grandma Jiang was in the hospital for a total of 1 month and 3 days. Let's say 60,000 per day. Oh yes, there were 31 days in July, so that's 34 days in total. That's 2.04 million. Let's round it down to 2 million. Jiang Luo was suddenly choked. 2 million. Where is he going to earn 2 million? He needs to go to college, and you can't make money going to college. Wen Ning, how about I pay you back after I finish college? I won't forget, and I'll pay you back for the money you spent on me. Wen Ning's gaze was unkindly surveying Jiang Luo, and he whispered in his ear, I know you can't pay it back, so how about this, you sleep with me for 10,000 a night, and you only need to be by my side for 200 days. Jiang Luo's pupils suddenly tightened, and he was shocked and unable to come back to his senses for a long time. Is that possible? 10,000 a night? Jiang Luo asked with his eyes wide open, simply, just sleeping? No other stuff? Wen Ning kissed Jiang Luo's ear lightly, and a trace of a smile appeared at the corner of his cold eyes. What else do you want me to do? Jiang Luo's ears turned red again, and he pushed Wen Ning away. It's nothing, sleeping is fine, I can sleep with you. 10,000 a night is much more than he can earn working part-time, and it's just sleeping. Wen Ning will at most just touch him. It's fine, he's not a girl, so it's no big deal if he gets touched. Wen Ning's smile grew even stronger at the corner of her mouth, and she squeezed Jiang Luo's hand. Those hands were white and slender, with clearly defined joints. She was right to fancy him, even his hands were so good-looking and clean. Great, sleep with me tonight, 200 days, not a day less. Zhang Luo nodded. I will take my grandmother home first, and then come back tonight. I will drive my grandmother, it is not convenient for you to take a taxi. Thank you. Zhang Luo sincerely thanked Wen Ning. Although Wen Ning was sometimes very bad, most of the time he was very good, helping him and his grandmother. The car stopped at the hospital. Zhang Luo said, Wen Ning, you wait here, I will go up and get my grandmother. After saying this, Zhang Luo went upstairs without looking back. Just as he opened the door, the Zhang family members came again to celebrate Zhang's grandmother's discharge from the hospital. Zhang's grandmother said expressionlessly, Why do you still care about this old woman? Zhang's wife's face changed slightly. Mom, how can you say that? We have always been thinking about you. We heard that you were discharged from the hospital and hurried here to see you. Think about me? You didn't take a single penny of the money for my discharge from the hospital. It was all earned by Luo Luo working part-time. Zhang's father smiled and said, Zhang Luo is capable now and can earn money. Zhang's father's money is all in Zhang's wife's hands, and Zhang's grandmother has spent too much money on this hospitalization, so Zhang's wife refuses to take any money. Zhang Jia leisurely said sarcastically from the side, Zhang Luo, where are you working and earning so much money? I heard that it's quite expensive for grandma to stay here, costing tens of thousands of dollars a day. Don't worry about that, I have my own way. Zhang's mother asked suspiciously, Zhang Luo, how can you earn so much money at such a young age? This old woman really costs a lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars a day. Who has that kind of money to pay for her medical treatment? Even if their family is rich, they can't afford to spend so much on the old woman. Grandma Jiang stood up and took Zhang Luo's hand. Luo Luo, let's go. Zhang Luo, you still haven't told me what kind of job you're doing that earns so much money, Zhang Jia asked loudly. It's not true to say that he's not jealous. He is still spending his family's money. Zhang's mother gives him tens of thousands of yuan in pocket money every month, and he can't even afford a luxury car. He is going to university soon, and he needs a Ferrari. Zhang Luo didn't answer, and took Zhang's grandmother to a long-wheelbase Rolls-Royce. Jiang Hui frowned. Had Zhang Luo gone to the wrong place? How did he get into that car? That car was a limited edition Rolls-Royce, and our family doesn't even have one. Is Didi Taxi so high-end now? You can even order a Rolls-Royce? Jiang Hui muttered to himself. Zhang's mother said, maybe he was hired. The old woman has already been discharged from the hospital, so you can rest assured now. Zhang's father nodded and said, Zhang Luo is quite a poor child. Now that he can earn money and has been the top scorer in the college entrance exam, he might be able to help Jianghui in the future. Why did you abandon him in the first place? Zhang's mother's face was cold and she said, Zhang Luo is scheming and will bully Hui. He might even take over your inheritance in the future. The Jiang group can only be Jianghui's, Jiang Yao, and the others can all get some shares, but Zhang Luo can't, not even a single share. Zhang Luo's father didn't say anything, and he didn't plan to give Zhang Luo any shares either. He just wanted to save some for Zhang's grandmother. Once in the car, Zhang Luo originally wanted to sit in the front, but Zhang's grandmother insisted that Zhang Luo sit with Wen Ning and she would sit in the passenger seat. So Zhang Luo once again fell into Wen Ning's hands, and sat unhappily next to her. Wen Ning squeezed Zhang Luo's thin waist. What's wrong? Are you unhappy? It's nothing. I just feel that Uncle Jiang is too afraid of his wife. He dares not contradict a word his wife says. He must not be like this in the future. Little Ning, you've really troubled me, having to drive Grandma home. Grandma, it's no trouble. I'm Zhang Luo's girlfriend, and in the future I'll be your granddaughter-in-law. It's only right that I respect you. Wen Ning's words were so sweet that Grandma Jiang was overjoyed. How wonderful, the heavens have really opened their eyes and bestowed such a wonderful girlfriend on Luo Luo. May the heavens bless Luo Luo and Wen Ning so that they can marry and have children soon. Luo Luo frowned, Grandma, I'm still young, why do you think so much about it, even thinking about children? I don't want children. Luo Luo, although you are young, Wen Ning is 6 years older than you should also consider her. Jiang Lu was about to speak, but he definitely would not marry Wen Ning in the future, let alone have children with her. Absolutely not. Sweetie pie, Daddy, where did I come from? Chapter 18:18 Grandma, I don't need Wen Ning to take care of me. Wen Ning took Jiang Lu's hand and said to Grandma, "It's okay. Jiang Lu is still young, and it's normal that he doesn't want children. If we have children, I will give birth to them. After all, Jiang Luo is so good looking, the child naturally can't be bad." Grandma Jiang was beaming with joy. "Good, if you need any help, just let Grandma know, I can still help you take care of the baby." "Good, then I'll trouble you in the future." Jiang Luo listened to the two of them talking, as if Wen Ning really had a child in her belly, and he almost believed what he was saying. How could that be? Wen Ning, the owner of such a company, is very busy. How could she have time to get pregnant and give birth? Jiang Lu gently tugged Wen Ning's sleeve and whispered in her ear, "Wen Ning, can you stop talking about children? It's still early." Wen Ning whispered, "Don't like children?" Jiang Lu originally wanted to answer that he didn't like them, but when he dreamed of his little daughter that time, she was just too cute. How could he not like her? "It's fine, I don't really like them, daughters are okay." Jiang Lu scratched his head awkwardly, "Can you stop talking about this?" He's still an 18 or 19-year-old boy. Wen Ning suddenly took Jiang Luo's hand and placed it on her stomach. "Maybe I'm pregnant with a daughter, Jiang Luo." "Feel your daughter." He felt a flat little belly, and Jiang Luo was shocked again. Blushing, he retorted, "Wen Ning, you're talking nonsense again. How could I possibly have a daughter?" Wen Ning looked at Jiang Luo's blushing face and wanted to tease him again. She nipped his ear lightly and said, "Really, I might be pregnant. My period is late this month." Jiang Luo's pupils suddenly tightened, and he stared at Wen Ning's lower abdomen without blinking. After a while, his lips trembled slightly. "No way. It's not you." Wen Ning pinched Jiang Luo's face and raised her eyebrows. "Why are you so nervous?" "I'm just saying it's possible, I'm not sure yet. I'm just so happy to know you have a daughter, I'm so excited I can't speak." "Excited my ass, happy my ass." He is just scared. If he has a daughter with Wen Ning, he will not be able to escape from her clutches for the rest of his life. No, absolutely not. Jiang Luo decided that he would go and beg the goddess of mercy tonight, to prevent his daughter from being born into Wen Ning's belly. Grandma Jiang couldn't hear what they were whispering about, but she just watched the two of them show their affection for each other, smiling from ear to ear. "Luo Luo, you take Grandma home, and then hurry back, and spend some time with Ning, to cultivate your relationship." Jiang Luo drew back his mouth corners. They hadn't even reached home yet, and Grandma had already kicked him out. Wen Ning said, "Don't worry, Grandma, I'll take good care of Jiang Luo. After all, I'm 6 years older than he is. You can rest assured." Grandma Jiang nodded with a smile. Good, Ning. Luo Luo is in your hands from now on. Grandma is at ease. You're such a good girlfriend, you couldn't find her with a lantern. Luo Luo, you must treasure her." Jiang Luo was about to cry. "Grandma, why did you have to give me to Wen Ning? I can take care of myself, I don't need a girlfriend to take care of me." "You can't find her even if you search with a lantern?" "Wen Ning is such a shameless woman, all she does is kiss and touch him, he won't like her." "Luo Luo, you're still young, you're not even 20, how can Grandma let you go off on your own?" "It'll be different with Ning, get along with her in the future." Jiang Luo nodded perfunctorily. Once he'd survived the next 200 days, he'd be free. While they were talking, the car stopped. "Wen Zong, we're here." Suchi got out of the car and opened the door. Wen Ning was wearing an expensive black dress, high heels, and her slightly curled hair was smooth and shiny. Her pale skin was cold and aloof, and she didn't fit in with this simple town. Jiang Lu was also wearing designer clothes, but his face was very young, and you could tell at a glance that he was a college student. "Last time I came here was at night, so I didn't get to see the scenery. It really is pretty. Our town has a very beautiful landscape." Jiang Luo grew up here and loves this simple town the most. He doesn't like the noisy big city of the imperial capital. Wen Ning carefully supported Grandma Jiang on one side, and Jiang Luo on the other. Grandma Jiang was so happy that she couldn't stop smiling. When they passed through the main street, they met many old people sitting on the roadside to cool off, some of them even with their children. Guizhi has been discharged from the hospital, and Jiang Luo has also returned. Who is that next to them? She's so pretty, prettier than a movie star. He's so handsome, and he's well dressed too, he must be from the city. Grandma Jiang laughed and replied, "This is Luo Luo's girlfriend." Luo Luo blushed, hung his head, and quietly replied, "MMM. Girlfriend? Luo Luo has really come a long way, he's even brought home a girlfriend, and she's so pretty and has a great figure too. Luo Luo used to blush whenever he saw a young girl, so how did he manage to bring home such a pretty girlfriend? Jiang Lu's face turned even redder. He was always a bit of a shy person, and being looked at by so many grandmothers made him feel as if his face was going to burn. Wen Ning greeted some of the grandmothers, speaking with grace and propriety. She's so pretty, she looks older than Jiang Lu, doesn't she? Grandma Jiang replied, well, she's a few years older, but that's okay. It's so great, our Xiaowu doesn't even have a girlfriend, and he didn't get into college. Jiang Luo got into the best university in the capital, and has such a pretty girlfriend. Guizhi, you are so lucky. Grandma Jiang laughed even more happily, deliberately slowing down so that everyone could take a look at her granddaughter-in-law. Grandma, can you walk faster? Jiang Luo muttered. What's the point of walking so fast? Grandma's legs hurt, walk slower. Jiang Luo secretly looked up at Wen Ning. She seemed approachable, but at the company she was completely different, clearly cold and aloof. It really is an act, this woman, she is so good at it. She even fooled Grandma. Two boys about Jiang Luo's age stopped him in his tracks. One of them glanced at Wen Ning and blushed as he scratched his head. Jiang Luo, your girlfriend? The men were Jiang Luo's childhood playmates, but they were uneducated and Jiang Luo had stopped playing with them a long time ago. Jiang Luo nodded, Zhang Yunhu leaned over Jiang Luo's ear and said, Jiang Luo, where did you find a girlfriend like this? She's even prettier than those movie stars. Can you find one for me too? Jiang Luo refused, saying, no, I can't, and I can't find one for you either. Jiang Luo, we've been friends since we were kids, and you're being so unkind. You have such a pretty girlfriend, and you've forgotten about us. Tiger, I really can't find one for you. This is the first time he's seen a woman as beautiful as Wen Ning, so where is he going to find another one? Chapter 1919, he gave Jiang Luo to Wen Ning. Zhang Yunhu looked at Wen Ning again, continued to scratch his head, and said apologetically, I'm Zhang Yunhu. I can fix cars. Although I'm not as educated as Jiang Luo, I can also earn money, up to 3,000 or 4,000 a month. Wen Ning nodded indifferently, not giving him a second glance. Jiang Luo can't do it, he still has to go to college and can't earn money. Jiang Luo frowned, Huzi, what do you mean? You're stealing my girlfriend right in front of my face. Wen Ning raised an eyebrow, did he admit it? He really is a proud little prude. Huzi denied, I was just talking to her, talking, how can that be called stealing? Jiang Luo said, that's not good either, she's my girlfriend, there's nothing to talk about with you, we're going back. Huzi kept his eyes on Wen Ning and continued, Jiang Luo, why are you so petty? I just said a few words. Does your girlfriend live at your place? Can I come over tonight? I'm going to work at the Imperial Capital Center for the summer, so I won't be home. After he finished speaking, Jiang Luo dragged Zhang's grandmother and Wen Ning away together. Although he didn't like Wen Ning, Huzi was definitely not a match for her. When they returned home, Zhang's grandmother insisted on keeping the two for lunch and busied herself in the kitchen, making chicken soup for Wen Ning, saying that chicken soup made with old hen's eggs is good for the body. The old hen that they didn't finish cooking last time could not be used, and although Zhang's grandmother felt sorry for it, she told Jiang Luo to throw it away. Wen Ning sat on the simple little sofa in her expensive clothes, looking out of place in this place. Jiang Luo made Wen Ning a cup of tea, but there was nothing to eat at home, so you should drink some tea first. Great. Wen Ning picked up the teacup and took a gentle sip. Come over here and sit next to me, so we can cultivate our relationship. Jiang Lu was 100% reluctant, but Wen Ning was his creditor, so he had to obediently sit next to her. Fortunately, this time Wen Ning just touched his hand and didn't do anything excessive. You grew up here before, I see that the view is nice, take me for a stroll sometime. Jiang Luo nodded, okay, there are a lot of woods here. When I was a kid, I dug bird holes there with Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi? Your childhood sweetheart? Sort of, but I didn't like her, and I never held her hand. Don't chop off her hand, Jiang Luo explained, his eyes darting. Wen Ning raised the corners of her lips, her eyes slightly upturned. No, I was just kidding, and you took me seriously. Jiang Luo felt that Wen Ning wasn't just saying it, but she looked so pretty when she smiled. Jiang Luo stared at that face, unable to help but reach out and touch it gently. The skin was smooth and delicate, like the finest lamb's fat jade, with a standard oval face and delicate, three-dimensional features, especially those black eyes, which were very beautiful. Zhang Luo swallowed and wondered if such a cold and beautiful woman could really be his future wife. He slowly leaned in, and his lips almost landed on Wen Ning's face. Luo Luo, dinner is ready. Zhang Luo was startled and suddenly came back to his senses. What was he doing just now? He actually wanted to kiss this female devil? Is he crazy? Zhang Luo immediately withdrew his hand, stood up. Wen Ning, dinner is ready, I'll get the chopsticks. After saying this, he fled in defeat, leaving Wen Ning sitting alone on the sofa. Luo Luo, this is the chicken soup with motherwort that Grandma specially made for you. You didn't get to drink it last time, so Grandma cooked it for you this time. Thank you, Grandma. You're welcome. Hurry up and take it over to Ning to eat together, and I'll cook 2 more dishes. Zhang Luo served Wen Ning a big bowl of chicken soup with Old Mother, and there was also cooked meat in it. The aroma was overpowering. Although it looked very simple, it made people very hungry. Wen Ning, this is what Grandma made. Try it, it's really delicious, and the meat is also cooked well. Wen Ning picked up the chopsticks and took a taste. It had a light fragrance, different from the one made by the famous chef in the kitchen, but it had a unique flavor. It's good, you eat it too. The two of them leaned over the table together to eat, and Zhang Luo felt that at this moment, the distance between him and Wen Ning had become a little closer, but only a little. Grandma Jian fried a few more dishes and insisted that Su Qi eat with them. In Grandma Jian's eyes, there may not be any difference between the master and the servant, and they all have to eat together. Wen Ning said, Su Qi, you sit down and eat together too, you can't go back at noon. Okay. Su Qi sat down to eat with them. She felt that Wen was a different person when he was here, so gentle that she hardly recognized him. Could this be the power of love? In the afternoon, Zhang Luo was given to Wen Ning by Zhang Luo's grandmother, who also handed over his belongings. Zhang Luo said helplessly, Grandma, I want to stay at home for a while. Zhang Luo's grandmother urged, you should go back with Xiaoning soon. I'll be fine at home alone. I've packed all your things. Get along well with Xiaoning in the future. Zhang Luo was directly given to Wen Ning by Zhang's grandmother. Zhang Luo, with a face full of despair, had his hand held by Wen Ning. Don't worry, Grandma, I'll take good care of Zhang Luo. Okay, go back quickly. Zhang Luo was thus taken away by Wen Ning. He really didn't want to go, looking back every step of the way. His grandmother didn't love him anymore, and she didn't want him either. Zhang Luo sat in the car, looking at the scenery outside, his heart as desolate as death. He was once again caught by the evil woman Wen Ning, and he didn't know what kind of torture he would have to endure in the future. In order to avoid Wen Ning, Zhang Luo returned to his room early in the evening, locked the door, but unfortunately he still couldn't escape from Wen Ning's clutches. Wen Ning knocked gently on the door. Zhang Luo, don't forget, you have to sleep with me, come to my room in a while. Okay. Zhang Luo stammered in reply, almost biting his tongue. Could he not go? Zhang Luo then wrapped himself in his pajamas, covering himself up tightly, not even showing his neck, for fear that Wen Ning would lose control of his animal instincts. He walked slowly to the door of Wen Ning's room, lingering outside for a long time before gently knocking on the door. Wen Ning, it's me. Come in, the door is not locked. Zhang Luo pushed open the door, and Wen Ning was wearing a sexy little suspender, very short, just above the thighs, and the view inside could be faintly seen. Zhang Luo was angry and ashamed, covering her eyes and turning her head. You're not wearing any clothes again. You came right after I got out of the shower, so how come I'm not wearing any clothes? Aren't these clothes I'm wearing? Wen Ning raised her eyebrows, deliberately coming into Zhang Luo's line of sight, and took his hand away. Take a good look, aren't these clothes I'm wearing? Zhang Luo blushed as he surveyed the woman in front of him. She had a thin waist, long legs, and a hot body, which was out of place with her cold face. Zhang Lu swallowed, but then, why is your skirt so short? Wen Ning raised her eyebrows, and her finger touched Zhang Lu's chest. It looks good. Don't you like short skirts? Chapter 2020. You're not old, and you have a good figure. No, I don't like it. I'm going to go to bed first. Zhang Lu lay down on Wen Ning's bed with her ears red. Her bed was very big, and a faint fragrance came from it, which smelled very good. Wen Ning followed suit and lay down, while Zhang Luo curled up in the corner, his whole body pressed against the wall. Wen Ning poked him in the back with her hand, saying, Zhang Luo, you're going to be lying against the wall soon. There's so much space here, lie down next to me. Zhang Luo moved over to Wen Ning's side, but there was still a long way to go, and he was so shy that he didn't even know where to put his hands. This was the first time he had lain in a woman's bed. Jiang Lu's heartbeat was irregular, and his ears were red and bleeding. He turned his head to the side and faced Wen Ning with his back turned. "Wen Ning, good night, you go to bed early, you still have to go to work tomorrow." How could Wen Ning let Jiang Lu go, deliberately pressing her body against his and kissing his earlobe? "It's still early, why don't we do something else?" There was an extra hand on Jiang Lu's chest, a soft mass against his back, and Jiang Lu could almost feel what shape it was. Pulling Wen Ning's hand away, Jiang Luo turned his head and said to her seriously, "Wen Ning, you said you wanted me to sleep with you, so go to sleep." "You think it's just sleeping?" Wen Ning placed her hand on Jiang Luo's chest again, her fingers tracing the smooth abdominal muscles and slowly moving downward. "Not old, and in good shape." Jiang Luo was aroused by Wen Ning's touch and grabbed her wrist again to take her hand away. "Wen Ning, stop touching me, I want to sleep, I have to get up for work tomorrow." "If you want to sleep so early, you might as well do something else. You want a daughter, don't you? Grandma likes children too, so why don't we do it tonight?" Before Jiang Lu could say anything, Wen Ning had already pinned her down. The woman was sitting on top of him, her long, pale legs shaking so much that they hurt his eyes. No, I don't like children, and I don't want a daughter either. I'm sleepy now, I want to sleep, so get off me." Jiang Lu was about to cry, being bullied by Wen Ning. This female devil particularly liked to bully him. Wen Ning took Jiang Lu's hand and placed it on his waist, raised the corners of his eyes, with a little charm on his face, and asked, "Is it thin?" "It's smooth and cool, with a touch like silk, and a little bit of elasticity." Jiang Lu nodded blankly. "What a thin waist." Wen Ning slowly leaned in and kissed the corner of Jiang Luo's lips. "Did you like it?" Jiang Luo immediately withdrew his hand and covered his mouth. He didn't like it. "Get off me, Wen Ning, I really want to sleep." Wen Ning knew that Jiang Luo was young and shy. Last time, he was drugged and didn't feel much. In a few days, she must really feel it. What should she do? She likes this clean and handsome boy. He looks young, but he has a great body, and she is very satisfied. Wen Ning got off Jiang Luo and lay down next to him, with her long legs pressed against his and her fair, lotus-like arms around his neck. "Sleep. Jiang Luo. This demon girl is hugging him, and he's still sleeping like that. Forget it, he still owes Wen Ning 2 million, so who cares? If he owes someone else money?" So Jiang Luo just closed his eyes. "Brothers, don't ever owe anyone money, or you might end up like me." Then, every morning, Jiang Lu woke up and Wen Ning was by his side. Jiang Lu counted the days until the start of the semester on his fingers. There was only 1 week left, and he was just hanging in there. If he could just get away from Wen Ning's clutches, but if Wen Ning hadn't been pressuring him for the past month and a half, had he finally had a change of heart? Jiang Lu continued to work his shift as usual, but today there was an unexpected visitor. Zhang Huai brought a group of his classmates in. Jiang Luo stood still and said in a low voice, "Welcome." Zhang Huai was surprised and said, "Jiang Luo? You are Jiang Luo, you work here as a waiter?" Jiang Luo nodded and said, "Yes." Zhang Huai couldn't help but feel proud in his eyes. "He didn't expect you to become a waiter." Zhang Yang said with a smile, "Yes, Jiang Luo, you are the top scorer in the college entrance examination, how can you be a waiter here? You will have to serve us later. This is embarrassing. And there are also some of our old classmates who are serving us. Zhang Yang and the others were jealous of Jiang Luo's good grades and had not spared him any trouble in the past. Seeing Jiang Luo come here to work as a waiter, how could they let him go easily? Jiang Luo said, "I am the doorman, not responsible for serving you." Zhang Yang asked, "What? Not responsible? Aren't you just a waiter?" There are also differences in the status of waiters. Jiang Luo's lips curled up in a sneer. "Jiang Luo, wait a while to serve us, we'll be waiting for you upstairs." "Yes, Jiang Luo, we'll go upstairs first, and we'll come and wait on you in a while. Maybe if you serve us well, we'll even give you a tip." Jiang Luo stood still, occasionally picking up his phone to reply to a few messages. Wen Ning said, "Jiang Luo, you're starting school soon, and I've set my sights on a car. I'll try it out this afternoon, as a gift for you to start school." "I don't want a car. I'm going to college, and I don't drive." "Go try it out. It's perfect for you." "Okay." Jiang Luo put his phone in his pocket and continued his shift. Wen Ning had prepared everything he needed for the start of the semester, being very considerate and caring, just like his big sister. Zhang Luo's mouth curled up slightly, his mood obviously very good. Zhang Huai and his group arrived at the private room. The VIP rooms here were too expensive for Zhang Huai to afford, so he just booked a regular private room. Zhang Huai, you are really our good buddy. Only you can bring us to a place like this. People like us can't even get in. Zhang Yang held a cigarette in his hand, smoke curling from the corner of his mouth, filling the air around them. Ding Wanliang nodded. Yes, it's Zhang Huai. It's our honor to have such a rich classmate. Look at how well this place is decorated. This private room must cost tens of thousands of yuan. It's not that much. A private room only costs 30,000 yuan, and everything inside is free for you to eat. Great, I've long wanted to try the food here. I hear it's especially delicious, and this is the biggest hotel in the imperial capital. Zhang Huai waved his hand, summoning a waiter. What can I do for you, sir? The waiter was a pretty young lady with a soft and pleasant voice. Zhang Huai stretched out on the sofa, crossed his legs, and commanded, "Bring me the waiter who greets guests at the door." Chapter 21. The girlfriend of a domineering chaebol forces love and insists on buying him a luxury car. Zhang Huai stood up and said in an unhappy tone, "No responsibility? Bring your manager here, I want that waiter." "Sir, I'm really sorry, our manager is very busy and has no time to see you." "No time? This is your attitude towards service. I heard that your hotel has a very good attitude towards service, but it seems to be in vain." Zhang Huai named Zhang Luo as his waiter to serve him tea and water, and he didn't want any other waiters. In the end, the waiters had no choice but to ask the manager to come. Manager Li had never met such an unreasonable guest before, so he explained patiently, "Zhang Luo is the doorman, why can't these waiters do?" Zhang Huai was being unreasonable. "Of course not, I want Zhang Luo to be my waiter, I paid the money, why can't I have him as my waiter?" "Yes, why spend 30,000 yuan, why can't Zhang Luo be our waiter?" "We want Zhang Luo to be our waiter." Manager Li rolled his eyes in his heart. That was General Wen's man. Even he wouldn't dare let Zhang Luo serve him tea and water. These people are good, they dare to order Zhang Luo after spending 30,000 yuan? Then, Zhang Huai and the others were kicked out, and their money was refunded. When Zhang Huai came out, he was still confused. These people are not going to be big fools if they don't take the money, right? Zhang Luo raised his eyebrows. "Zhang Huai, didn't you eat inside? Why did you come out so early?" Zhang Huai was furious. He pointed his finger at Zhang Luo and said, "Zhang Luo, did you do this on purpose? What is your relationship with the manager here? Why is he defending you so much?" Zhang Luo looked puzzled. "Zhang Huai, what are you talking about? I specifically asked for you to be the waiter, but the manager refused and even kicked us out." Zhang Lu suddenly realized, "Oh, that's why you left so early. You were kicked out. Young Master Zhang, how does it feel to be kicked out?" "Zhang Lu, Zhang Huai is so angry that he is grinding his teeth. Zhang Lu, you just wait. I'll be right here waiting. Young Master Zhang, come back when you have time." Zhang Huai left with his friends. Zhang Yang and the others looked gloomy. This Zhang Lu is really lucky to have the manager's appreciation. He is timid and weak, and will not amount to much in the future. He will be a waiter for the rest of his life. Unlike us, young Master Zhang, who will become the president in the future. Don't forget about us brothers. Zhang Yang continued to flatter him. Don't worry, I won't forget about you. Let's go eat somewhere else. Good, there are other hotels. Zhang Luo watched the few people leave, and at that moment, Manager Li came out. Zhang Luo, do you know those people? They want you to be a waiter, but you have to be a waiter, that's bullying you. How can I agree to that? Thank you, Manager Li. Zhang Luo pursed his lips. He had met such a good manager in the first place he came to work, and his luck was quite good. Manager Li smiled and urged, "You don't need to thank me. It's almost time for you to go home." "Manager Li, it's not time to go home yet, there's still an hour left." Then, Zhang Luo was taken away by Manager Li when Ning's car was waiting not far away. Zhang Luo got into the car, and when Ning wiped the sweat from his head. The weather at the end of August was still very hot. "I bought you a new car and took you to pick it up." "Wen Ning, I really don't need a car. I'm going to college, I don't need to drive." Wen Ning dissuaded him, "I bought it first, don't you like cars? Don't you boys like sports cars?" Zhang Luo nodded. Of course, he liked sports cars. He had always dreamed of owning one. But sports cars were so expensive, costing millions of dollars. Even after graduation, he would not be able to earn that kind of money. He was just an ordinary person, and it would probably take him a lifetime to earn millions of dollars. It's okay if you like it. Don't worry, I bought you the car, you will definitely like it. The biggest 4S store in the capital. As soon as Wen Ning got out of the car, the owner of the store came personally to greet him and respectfully invited him into the reception area. Mr. Wen, the car you ordered is ready. It is guaranteed to be unique, a limited edition supercar, and there are only 3 in the whole capital. Well, Zhang Luo, go take a look. Zhang Luo finally saw the legendary car. It was silver gray in appearance, with a low chassis, and was the latest Rolls-Royce Phantom. Wen Ning, this is too high profile, I don't want it. Wen Ning asked softly, if you don't like this one, then let's change it. You can choose whichever car you like here. No, I like it, but it's too expensive, I can't afford it, and I don't want to sleep with you anymore. Zhang Luo's voice grew smaller and smaller. This looks very expensive, probably worth millions, and he will have to sleep with you for many more days. The owner of the shop, a middle-aged man, respectfully asked, Mr. Wen, this is. Wen Ning shook Zhang Luo's hand, my boyfriend, a bit small, still in college. The shop owner's expression froze for a moment, before he smiled and said, so it's a boyfriend. This car suits him perfectly. Mr. Wen's boyfriend is really good-looking. He'll definitely be someone in the future. Zhang Luo was embarrassed by the praise and scratched his head. He was actually just an ordinary person, so what kind of person was he? Let's take this one. The color also suits you. Zhang Luo simply couldn't refuse. His overbearing chaebol girlfriend forced him to buy a luxury car. Wen Ning bought this car for Zhang Luo and used his credit card to pay 380 million yuan. When they came out, Zhang Luo asked, Wen Ning, how much is this car? Does it cost millions? I really don't want to sleep with you. Wen Ning stood on tiptoe and kissed Zhang Luo's handsome profile. I didn't ask you to sleep with me. This is my gift to you for the start of the semester. You don't need to sleep with me for a gift. Zhang Luo was relieved. It's a good thing he wasn't asked to sleep with her, otherwise he wouldn't know how many days it would take, and it might be hundreds of days. He had already slept with her for almost a month, so he just had to endure a little longer. Wen Ning pulled Zhang Luo into the car and said mysteriously, I'm also going to give you a surprise, but I need to be sure, so I'll tell you in a few days. Zhang Luo asked, what? Wen Ning lightly touched her lower abdomen with her finger and said, just wait a little longer. Zhang Luo scratched his head in confusion. What did Wen Ning mean? And a surprise? It can't be a scare, can it? Omega asterisk, the baby is coming. Chapter 22 What? You said you're pregnant with my child. Zhang Luo finally made it to the day before the start of the semester. He packed all his things and just waited to report to school. He would be rid of Wen Ning tomorrow. Zhang Lu hummed a song in a good mood as he walked downstairs. Wen Ning had just returned from work and was leaning against the sofa with her eyes closed. She pinched the middle of her eyebrows in exhaustion, her face pale and with a kind of morbid beauty. Zhang Lu immediately walked over and asked, Wen Ning, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Is it a headache? Why don't you go to the hospital and I'll go with you? Wen Ning took Zhang Lu's hand and placed it on her own temple, whispering, it's nothing, I'll be fine after a little rest, just give me a massage. But I don't know how. Just do it. Zhang Luo gave Wen Ning a gentle massage on the temples, then looked up. Is this the right strength? Yes. Wen Ning closed her eyes and leaned into Zhang Luo's embrace, feeling completely relaxed. Zhang Luo had wanted to push her away, but she looked so tired, so he let her lean into him for a while. He's not a girl, after all, and he's not that delicate. The maids around them all sensibly left, afraid of interrupting the intimacy between the boss and her young boyfriend. Wen Ning opened her eyes. Her pupils were dark and slightly upturned, very pretty peach blossom eyes. She kissed Zhang Luo's lips lightly and murmured, thank you, I feel much better. I'll give you a surprise tonight. Is this the surprise you were talking about the other day? I start school tomorrow, and I want to. Suddenly, Wen Ning covered her mouth and vomited. Zhang Luo immediately helped her to the bathroom. Wen Ning, you've been vomiting for the past few days. Did you eat something bad? What did you eat? Nothing. Wen Ning supported herself with both hands on the sink, tears streaming down her face from the vomiting, and washed her face with water. It will be fine in a few days. What were you trying to tell me just now? I wanted. Jiang Lu's voice had not yet finished when Wenwan called out, "Sister, dinner is ready." Jiang Lu helped Wen Ning out and Wenwan asked, "Sister, are you sick? You haven't looked well for a few days. Maybe you should go to the hospital and ask the medical team to come to the house." "Never mind, let's eat first." Wen Ning picked up the chopsticks and picked up some food for Jiang Luo, who then leaned over the table and ate with relish. Wen Ning had just taken a bite when she ran to the bathroom to vomit. When Wan whispered, "Jiang Luo, do you think my sister is pregnant?" Upon hearing this, Jiang Luo felt like he had been struck by lightning, and his whole body instantly froze in place, his hands dropping the chopsticks to the ground with a crisp sound. Wen Ning is pregnant. Wen Ning is really pregnant with his child. No way, it was just that one time. How could it be such a coincidence? Jiang Lu immediately ran to the bathroom, but Wen Ning was not here. He went upstairs and knocked on Wen Ning's room door. Wen Ning, are you in there? Come in." Wen Ning was sitting on the sofa, holding a list in her hands and reading it carefully. Jiang Luo slowly approached with his legs apart. Before he could speak, Wen Ning suddenly stood up from the sofa and walked quickly to Jiang Luo, slipping something into his hand. Jiang Luo asked, "What is this?" "I'm pregnant, your child, almost 2 months old. Are you happy?" Jiang Luo clutched the pregnancy test in his hand, moved his lips, but didn't speak. His whole body was stiff. Wen Ning said there's a baby? He has a child? Jiang Luo was completely dumbfounded. He felt his mind buzzing and whirring, and it was already seriously beyond his capacity to handle. After a long while, Jiang Luo came back to his senses, his gaze falling on Wen Ning's belly, and he asked in a low voice, "Really?" Wen Ning embraced Jiang Luo's arm and said, "Of course it's real. This is my gift to you for starting school. Do you like it? You don't have to worry. You just focus on going to college, and I'll raise the baby." After all, her boyfriend is still young and won't be able to take care of the baby. Jiang Lu now just wanted to escape. He didn't want the demon girl's child. Could he never escape Wen Ning's clutches? Jiang Lu wanted to cry but had no tears. He was completely devastated. God was really playing a joke on him. He had a child with a demon girl. Do you like sons or daughters? Do you like daughters? Jiang Lu thought of the obedient daughter he had dreamed of and nodded blankly. Of course he liked them. Which father didn't like daughters? Although he wasn't ready yet. But he can't be a father. This time it's not pretend, he really has a daughter. Wen Ning sat Jiang Lu on the sofa and took his hand and placed it on her flat stomach. Our daughter will be very beautiful. Wenwan doesn't know about this yet, and I only confirmed it a few days ago. I wanted to surprise you. How is it? A surprise? More than a surprise, it's a shock. Jiang Lu moved his hand and felt Wen Ning's stomach. It's so flat and smooth. Is there really a baby in there? It feels pretty amazing. Suddenly I'm going to be a father. Jiang Lu touched her belly for 10 whole minutes. My dear daughter, come out quickly. Although he didn't like this female devil Wen Ning, his daughter would definitely be cute and beautiful, just like he had seen in his dreams. Wen Ning hooked Jiang Lu's neck, her eyes flirtatious. Jiang Lu, sleep with me tonight. Don't I sleep with you every night? Every night I have to be poisoned by Wen Ning, kissing him and touching him. Jiang Lu thought about it and it was all a bitter tear. This time, it's not just sleeping. It's been almost 2 months. Jiang Luo, I want it tonight, give it to me. Jiang Luo hadn't had time to refuse when Wen Ning had already straddled his lap, her fingers gently stroking his face as her eyes became misty. So handsome. She's not wrong to have chosen him as her husband. Although he's young now, he'll definitely become even more handsome in the future. A strong kiss landed on Jiang Luo's lips, and Jiang Luo immediately pushed away Wen Ning's face and twisted his head to the side, not letting her kiss him. Still acting like a proper little prude, she refused to touch the woman on her body. However, her ears were already red as if they were bleeding. Wen Ning's soft fingers played with Jiang Luo's ears, and her red lips pressed against them. After all this time, how come her ears are still red? Or is she just not aroused? Her pale fingers were on Jiang Luo's chest, gently undoing the buttons on his shirt. Jiang Luo took Wen Ning's hand away and said seriously, Wen Ning, you're pregnant right now, you can't do those things, otherwise it's not good for the baby. Not good? Well, really? Zhang Luo nodded seriously. In fact, he was just talking nonsense, and he didn't want to be forced by Wen Ning. Okay, then. Give it to me in 3 months. Wen Ning sat on Zhang Luo's lap, her clothes half slipped off to reveal her shoulders, and her long, slender legs hanging out, looking like a seductive vixen. Zhang Luo pretended to sit still, but his heart was racing, his body burning with heat, and his Adam's apple rolling slightly. This Wen Ning, so cold and aloof on the outside, why is she like this when the door is closed? Someone save him. Chapter 23. This demon woman, pregnant, seems even more clingy. Zhang Luo, kiss me. Zhang Luo wrapped his arms around Wen Ning's soft waist and kissed her forehead gently. Is that okay? Kissing the woman in his arms, and kissing his own face red first, Zhang Luo felt quite embarrassed, yes, quite embarrassed. Hold me. Wen Ning wrapped her arms around Zhang Luo's neck and hung onto him. Wen Ning usually wears high heels and is 1.78 meters tall, but in fact her net height is only 1.7 meters. Zhang Lu can effortlessly pick her up, support her buttocks, and put her on the bed. You sleep with me. Hugged by Wen Ning, Zhang Lu could not move at all. This demon girl seems even more clingy when she is pregnant. Wen Ning held Zhang Lu's face and kissed him gently. You went to school and couldn't talk to other girls. You are my fiancé and the father of the child. I know. Wen Ning deliberately nibbled lightly on Zhang Luo's neck, leaving a mark. Zhang Luo frowned slightly. Wen Ning, you bit me. You are mine, this is the mark. Overbearing. He is not Wen Ning's, he is his own. But seeing as she is pregnant, I will not argue with her. Zhang Luo hugged Wen Ning's waist and coaxed her in an unpracticed tone. It's late, Wen Ning, go to sleep. Okay, good night. Then, Zhang Luo woke up late on the big day of the semester, and when he woke up, there was a woman hanging in his arms. Zhang Luo took Wen Ning's arm off his neck, rolled out of bed, and changed into a neat and low-key outfit. After all, it was going to college, and it wouldn't be good to dress too flashy. Zhang Luo's personality is very low-key, and he doesn't compare with others. When he was in high school, many teachers liked him. Zhang Luo, I'll go first. Today is the first day of school, I have to pick up my younger brothers, so you eat first. Wen Wan left with a small bag and a suitcase. She usually commutes, but she also has a room in the dormitory, so it's quite convenient to stay in the dormitory occasionally if she doesn't want to come back. Okay, I'll be there in a while. Zhang Luo had just sat down when Wen Ning also came downstairs. Her high-cut black dress and high heels made her look cold and dignified. You can't tell at all that she was the seductive vixen yesterday. Zhang Luo, today is your first day of school, I'll walk you there. No need, you go rest, you have a baby in your belly. Zhang Luo glanced at Wen Ning from time to time, thinking that she had her child inside her belly, and wanted to go up and feel it. It's okay, the baby is only 2 months old, you can't tell, I'll walk you to school in a bit. Okay. Zhang Luo buried his head and continued eating, going to college and still having a girlfriend to send him. Wen Ning sat next to Zhang Luo and they ate together. There was an empty seat next to them, and she asked, where's Wen Wan? Wen Wan had left. She was a senior and had to pick up her younger classmates, so she left early. Wen Ning raised the corner of her eyes and asked, what about you? Are you going to live in the dormitory? I see that you have packed your suitcase, so you're not going to live at home? Zhang Luo was a little guilty, and he stammered in reply, I think it is more convenient to live in the Imperial University. I can come back on weekends. I can come back for 2 days a weekend. In fact, he didn't want to come back on weekends either, but Wen Ning had a baby, so he always had to come back to see the baby. His good daughter didn't know when she would be able to come out. 2 days? So, you will come back for 2 days a week, and you can't sleep with me at night. I guess so. Wen Ning put down her chopsticks and said, no, I don't agree. You must come back every night to be with me and the baby. Zhang Luo took Wen Ning's hand and said seriously, Wen Ning, freshman year is very busy, and I really don't have time to come back every day. How about this, I'll live in the dorm on Mondays and Wednesdays, and come back the rest of the time. 2 days. You won't be by my side for 2 nights? Zhang Luo whispered, it's not much. I'll come back on Saturdays and Sundays to be with you and the baby. Okay, but you have to miss me when you're at school. Zhang Lu nodded. Perfunctorily. Miss Wen Ning, that female devil? Never in this life. Zhang Lu was fixing her hair in the mirror. The mark left by Wen Ning on her neck had not faded yet, so Jiang Lu rubbed her hand against it again, only making it redder. This female devil, why did she have to kiss me in such a conspicuous place? Does she want everyone to know she has a girlfriend? Wen Ning took Jiang Luo's hand, while Su Qi and the others were behind them carrying suitcases. There were 5 in total, and Wen Ning had prepared 4 of them personally for Jiang Luo. Jiang Luo was puzzled and asked, Wen Ning, I only have 1 suitcase, what are the other 4? Wen Ning said, of course they are for your food and drink, as well as your bedding, clothes and shoes. So many? I only need 1 suitcase. It's summer, I don't need much clothing, and I'll just stay in the dormitory for a couple of days. It's always a good idea to take more. Jiang Luo just stepped out of the living room when he saw a row of top-of-the-line Rolls-Royces in the courtyard, a dozen of them in a long line. Jiang Luo was shocked again. Wen Ning, I'm going to school, this is too high profile, a dozen cars and a dozen bodyguards, people who don't know would think you're going to a fight. My boyfriend of course needs to look impressive going to school, get in the car. After getting in the car, Jiang Luo breathed in the fresh air outside and lightly touched Wen Ning's belly with his large hand, simply asking, how much longer until she comes out? He can't wait to meet his daughter. Wen Ning chuckles softly. There are still 8 months to go before she's due. Why are you in such a hurry? Didn't you say you didn't like daughters? I like daughters. I've already thought of a nickname for the baby, Nuonyuo. Wen Ning nods. Okay, you're Nuonyuo's father, and you're also a top student. I'll leave the baby's name to you. Jiang Luo scratches his head sheepishly. He doesn't know anything about naming either. It's quite a magical experience to become a father so suddenly. Well, I will think of a good name for the baby. He will definitely give his daughter a very nice name. Jiang Lu carefully touched Wen Ning's stomach, and the corner of his mouth rose slightly. Nu will be very happy to know that her father is a scholar. Jiang Lu was embarrassed by the praise and pursed his lips. Wen Ning, should I tell Grandma about this? What about you? Do you want to tell Grandma? Or should we wait a bit longer? Jiang Lu was afraid that if his grandmother knew about this, she would directly tell him to marry Wen Ning. He was still so young, and he didn't want to get married. He hadn't even been in a sweet relationship yet, and he was going to get married directly. No, absolutely not. He still had to go to college, and he still had dreams to fulfill. He absolutely could not get married so early. Chapter 24. He was surrounded by beautiful female seniors as soon as school started. Wen Ning held Jiang Luo's hand and asked, what are you thinking? You're shaking your head and nodding. Nothing, we're almost at school. Wen Ning, park the car over there and let me get off first. He didn't want to be surrounded on the first day of school. Daidu University. The top university in the country, covering an area of thousands of square kilometers, offering hundreds of doctoral and master's programs, with a strong faculty covering all disciplines. The School of Film and Arts is an independent faculty located in the northern area of the university. Today is the first day of school, and it is bustling with activity outside, with all kinds of luxury cars parked in front of the entrance. Several top-of-the-line Ferraris are parked at the entrance to the campus, and people are stopping to watch. Who is this? Why is there such a big entourage? I wonder who the young master is. The Ferraris are leading the way. I came by train. It's true that people compare themselves to others, which is infuriating. It's okay, you work hard, and you will have it too. The car door opened and Jiang Huai got out, dressed in designer clothes and wearing a pair of shoes that cost hundreds of thousands of yuan. Mr. Jiang, isn't this Mr. Jian? He is the only young master of the Jiang group. I didn't expect to run into Mr. Jiang on the first day of school. He really is rich, with so many bodyguards. Jiang Huai was followed by 4 bodyguards, carrying his suitcase. Young master, let's go in. Let's go and see where my dormitory is, and don't let it be too bad. Jiang Huai was about to leave when he suddenly saw a familiar figure. Jiang Luo, you're not carrying anything. You're here to go to college, so you can't be poor and don't even have a suitcase, can you? Jiang Luo was wearing a simple, clean white shirt, and he was tall and handsome, instantly attracting the attention of many people. Get out of the way. Jiang Huai said contemptuously, you don't have the tuition fees, do you? You don't have the living expenses either. Why don't you beg me? I'll give you some. After all, you are my brother. Jiang Luo ignored him and turned to leave, but Jiang Huai stopped him again. Jiang Luo, you're so poor, you don't even have a suitcase, so why are you even going to school? If I were you, I'd go out and work. Zhang Luo said sternly. Zhang Huai, I'll say this one last time, move. Are you afraid of the truth? You're already poor and can't even afford to eat, and you have no living expenses to come here to school. Do you want to starve to death? At this moment, there was an outburst of gasps from the crowd. Damn, so many people. Whose bodyguards are they? So many. A row of luxury cars were parked next to Zhang Luo. Su Qi came out with a suitcase, and with her were 12 female bodyguards. The row was full, as if it were the trip of a top young master of a top family. Su Qi and her entourage walked towards Zhang Luo, and then placed the suitcase next to him. Zhang Luo just wanted to quickly find a hole to burrow into. I told you not to let them come over. Su Qi didn't say anything, just put down her things and turned to leave. Zhang Luo was shocked and couldn't get his mind back to normal for a long time. He frowned in disbelief and said, Zhang Luo, I thought you didn't have money for food? How can you afford to hire so many bodyguards? Did you hire these luxury cars too? Obviously, he is the young master of the Zhang family, but Zhang Luo is even more impressive than him. Isn't this slapping his face? Yes. Zhang Lu didn't bother with him and was about to move the suitcases, but there were 5 big suitcases around him, and although he was strong, he couldn't move 5 at once. If he had known, he wouldn't have brought so much, and there was no way he could carry it all to the dormitory. Zhang Lu was worried when a few pretty schoolgirls came over, all tall and sweet-looking. Little brother, do you need some help? You have a lot of suitcases. Zhang Lu nodded apologetically and thanked the sisters for their help. Before leaving, Zhang Lu looked back and glanced at Wen Ning in the car. Wen Ning was also looking at him. What is the little brother looking at? Let's go. Zhang Huai gritted his teeth. Zhang Lu is really popular. With that face, he has attracted so many sisters just after arriving here. Zhang Xiao, where is your dormitory? We'll take you there. The 2 sisters walked up to Zhang Huai and asked. My dormitory is in Building 3. Okay, we'll take you there. Building 3 is this way. Zhang Jia, accompanied by his 4 bodyguards, attracted the attention of many students along the way. The other side. The sisters were very enthusiastic about carrying Zhang Luo's suitcase and asked for his WeChat ID. Zhang Luo felt bad about not giving it to them. After all, they had helped him, and all they wanted was his WeChat ID. After adding Zhang Luo's WeChat ID to their own, one of the sisters asked, Younger brother, you've just started university, do you have a girlfriend? Zhang Lu thought of Wen Ning and nodded awkwardly, saying that he already had a girlfriend. Not only a girlfriend, but also a daughter. On the first day of school, Wen Ning really gave him a big surprise. The older sister was obviously a little disappointed and asked with a smile, Is your girlfriend in this school? If she's not in this school, it might not last long. After all, long-distance relationships are difficult. Zhang Lu honestly replied, No, she's not here. She's very good to me. A few older students who had just returned from moving their things cut Zhang Luo off. The one in the lead was a hot woman, wearing a red miniskirt and with a seductive appearance. However, Zhang Luo was not greatly surprised. After all, he was used to seeing Wen Ning, who was much more beautiful than the woman in front of him. Lin Yawei, I can't believe you guys got such a handsome junior. You're so lucky. The flirtatious senior walked slowly over, approaching Zhang Luo, and reached out to touch his face, but Zhang Luo turned his head and avoided it. Lin Yawei protected Zhang Luo behind her, and Shen ran, What do you want? Do you still want to steal him? I'm telling you, this junior already has a girlfriend. If he has a girlfriend, that's not a problem. Just break up with her. I'm interested in this junior. Shen Ran threw a flirtatious glance at Zhang Luo and said, Why don't you let me, your senior, escort you? Where is your dormitory? Lin Yawei and the others were furious. This Shen Ran actually didn't even spare the junior who had just entered the school. She was simply not human. Zhang Luo, don't pay any attention to her. She's just like that. Which building is your dormitory? We'll escort you there. My dormitory is in Building 3. As soon as Zhang Luo finished speaking, Shen Ran already took his hand, saying, Senior, let me walk you there. Zhang Luo quickly pulled his hand back. Wen Ning had said that if anyone grabbed his hand, she would chop off that woman's hand. Although the senior was a bit too enthusiastic and well-intentioned, Zhang Luo couldn't bear to see her lose her hand. What's your name, Junior? How old are you? Zhang Luo replied, My name is Zhang Luo, I'm 18 years old. So young, if you have any difficulties in the future, you can come to me, I'm a senior in the acting department. Shenran escorted Jiang Luo to the door of the dormitory. Go on in, your dormitory is here, 308 on the third floor. Jiang Luo politely thanked her. Thank you, senior. You're welcome. If you really want to thank me, why don't you become my boyfriend? Shenran's face was serious, not at all joking. Chapter 25. My wife insists on giving him 3 million yuan a month in living expenses. Jiang Luo's ears turned red and she shook her head and said, No, I already have a girlfriend. Senior sister, you are so pretty, you can definitely find a more handsome senior. But I like you. Give me your phone. Jiang Luo gave her phone to her senior sister. Shenran took Jiang Luo's phone and added her to WeChat. Send me a message if you need anything, I'll go first. Okay. Shenran left with her group of girlfriends, and Lin Yawei also left. Jiang Luo was about to go in. Young master, we're here. It was a narrow escape. Before they even went up, Jiang Luo saw the very high-profile Jiang Huai, accompanied by 4 bodyguards. Jiang Luo, you're here too? Yes, I'm also in the acting department. Jiang Huai, as if he had heard a joke, sneered, You? You actually apply for this? You have no money and no acting skills, what are you doing applying for this? Jiang Luo didn't say anything, and silently carried the suitcase to room 308. Jiang Jia was actually in the room next door, 309. Jiang Luo opened the door, and 2 classmates were already inside, wearing black t-shirts and both quite handsome. Someone else is here, stop playing games, someone is here, say hello quickly. Tian Cheng spoke with a smile, I'm Tian Cheng, he's Meng Zhou, you can just call me Big Orange. Jiang Luo introduced himself, my name is Jiang Luo, we'll be roommates from now on. Well, go choose your bed. Jiang Luo chose a bed against the wall, and then took Wen Ning to his suitcase and opened it. There was a mess of everything inside, all kinds of clothes, and underwear. Okay, he also wanted his girlfriend to prepare underwear. Tian Cheng was surprised, Jiang Luo, your suitcase is so clean. Yes, my girlfriend helped me organize it. Jiang Luo scratched his head awkwardly and opened the other suitcase. Inside were food and drinks, as well as milk and various snacks. Tian Cheng and Meng Zhou looked at it with envy. Jiang Luo, did your girlfriend help you organize this too? She brought you so much food. What kind of girlfriend is this? She folds the laundry and brings food to her boyfriend. When will they ever have such a good girlfriend? Jiang Luo nodded, yeah, she's probably afraid I'll get hungry. Jiang Luo shared the milk and snacks with his 2 roommates. Jiang Luo, this is embarrassing, your girlfriend prepared this for you, we'd better not take it. It's okay, she won't mind. Jiang Luo made the bed spotlessly clean, without a single wrinkle, and then put the pillow on the bed. From now on, he would sleep here, and he would finally be able to get away from that female devil. Jiang Lu was so happy that he almost burst into tears. When Ning sent a message, are you coming back tonight? No, it's Monday, I'll go back tomorrow. Well, be careful at school, keep your quilt covered at night, and don't catch a cold when you use the air conditioning. Got it, I'm going out to dinner with my roommate. Well, is 800,000 yuan a month enough for living expenses? Is that too little? I was going to give you 3 million yuan, but there are so many expenses after all. Jiang Luo replies, really, it's not necessary, Wen Ning, I can't spend that much. What's it like having a rich wife? Do you have to give him 3 million yuan a month in pocket money? He can't spend it all, he can't spend it all. Okay, then 800,000 yuan, although it's a bit less, let me know if it's not enough. Jiang Luo said, okay. There are a total of 8 canteens at Daida University, and Jiang Luo and the others went to the largest central canteen. Jiang Luo casually ordered a few simple dishes, a mix of meat and vegetables, which were not as luxurious as those they ate at home, but were still quite good. Tian Cheng also ordered a few dishes, all of which were relatively inexpensive. Brother Meng, why did you order so much? We're eating together, and I only have 5,000 yuan a month, so if it's not enough, I'll ask my dad for more. Tian Cheng was surprised, I have 5,000 yuan a month for living expenses, and I only have 1,000 yuan a month. Jiang Luo, what about you? Jiang Luo hesitated for a moment. He couldn't say that his wife gave him hundreds of thousands of yuan a month for living expenses. That would be too high profile, and no one would believe it if he said it. I also have more than 1,000 yuan a month. Then we have to be careful with our spending, 1,000 yuan is not enough at all. Tian Chang wiped away a tear of bitterness. Having just arrived on campus, Jiang Lu was curious about everything and went around the whole campus with his roommate. Not far away was the new student reception office, where several older students were. Tian Chang stopped in his tracks. That was the flirtatious senior, Shen Ran, and the innocent senior, Lin Yaowei. Both were popular figures on campus. I heard they'd been in a movie and were quite famous. Many companies wanted them and they're going to start working soon. Meng Zhou said, I still like senior Lin Yaowei better. She's pure and lovely, and has a good personality. Tian Chang laughed and scratched his head. Senior Shen Ran has a great figure and is charming and moving. I like that type. Jiang Luo, what about you? Jiang Luo said, I have a girlfriend, and she is very beautiful. Suddenly, Shen Ran turned her head and seemed to see Jiang Luo slowly walking towards her with long, slender legs. Tian Chang was excited, is she walking towards me? Jiang Luo, I'm not mistaken, is my senior sister here to see me? I'm so excited, what do you think of the clothes I'm wearing? Jiang Lu nodded, very good, you look handsome, and the clothes look good too, go on. Then Jiang Lu pushed Tian Chang straight over, and as he was about to leave, Shen Ran stopped him. Jiang Lu, don't you recognize your senior sister? She helped you carry your luggage this morning, aren't you going to invite me to dinner? Jiang Luo turned around and Shen Ran was standing in front of him. Her face was charming and moving, with heavy makeup and long, curly hair. Jiang Luo took a few steps back to put some distance between them. Sure, tomorrow. I already ate with my roommate today. Great, I'll ask you out tomorrow. You don't have class tomorrow anyway. Why don't we go out to eat? Jiang Luo nodded, okay. Just as Shen Ran had left, Tian Chang touched Jiang Luo's arm and asked, what's going on? How do you know the goddess like senior? Don't you have a girlfriend? This morning, it was Shen Ran who helped me carry my suitcase. I just invited her to dinner. If you want to go, you can go with me. Is that okay? Can I also have dinner with the senior? Tian Chang was overwhelmed with excitement inside, and as soon as he returned to the dormitory, he started looking for clothes. He must wear his best clothes tomorrow. Jiang Luo, what do you think of this shirt? Do you think it looks good? You can help me choose, you look so good in clothes. Tian Chang had already changed into the 8th shirt. Jiang Luo rubbed his eyes, feeling a little sleepy. It's okay, you take your time choosing, I'm going to go to bed. Jiang Luo took a quick shower, changed into some pajamas, and lay down on the bed. Finally, there was no enchantress like Wen Ning around him to kiss and touch him. Jiang Lu closed his eyes, but still felt that something was missing. He held the other pillow in his arms, but the pillow didn't feel as good as Wen Ning's. Wen Ning's skin was smooth, and her waist was soft and thin. Jiang Lu threw the pillow aside and tossed and turned, unable to sleep. He felt uncomfortable not being able to hold Wen Ning. Oh, Jiang Lu, unable to hold his wife, annoyed. Chapter 26 Jealous and Mad One. The Other Side. Wen Ning tossed and turned in bed, wishing she could grab Jiang Luo from school and make him sleep with her. If she had known, she would never have let him sleep at school. Wen Ning gently stroked her stomach, holding Jiang Luo's pillow in her arms. Nua, are you missing your dad too? Daddy will be back tomorrow, so stop it. Are you asleep? Suddenly, the phone rang. Jiang Luo immediately opened his eyes and replied to the message, getting ready for bed, just finished showering. Are you comfortable living in the dormitory? It's okay, there are only 3 of us in the dormitory, and the other 2 are also easy to get along with. Jiang Luo, Nuonua misses you, come back tomorrow night. Okay, the management here is not strict, I can go back at night, I'll go back tomorrow to accompany you and your daughter. Well, go to bed early, don't turn the air conditioner down so low at night. Got it. Jiang Luo put the phone down and hugged the pillow next to him again, although it didn't feel as good as Wen Ning's. He missed his daughter. Jiang Luo didn't sleep well. When he got up in the morning, he brushed his teeth and washed his face in a daze, and changed into his daily clothes. He looked at himself in the mirror on the table and messed with his hair a bit, but didn't bother to comb it. Jiang Luo, I'm going to dinner with an older woman today. What do you think of my clothes? I spent the whole night picking them out. Tian Chang was wearing a black suit and a bow tie, looking like a working man. Jiang Lu squinted his eyebrows and said, Brother Chang, won't it be too hot in this suit? It's 36 degrees today. Who would wear a suit in 36 degrees, unless they're a big idiot? What do you think I should wear, John Lu? You look good in anything, even a plain white shirt looks good on you, and your skin is white, unlike mine, which is so dark. Tian Chang looked at Jiang Lu with envy. He was wearing a simple white shirt, and although his hair was a bit messy, it didn't hinder the beauty of his face at all. His skin was pale, his facial features were three-dimensional, his eyebrows were very dark, and his figure was good. Jiang Lu, you're so good-looking, and in the future, a big director will definitely take a liking to you and let you act. Don't forget your brothers, and take them with you. Jiang Lu was embarrassed by the praise and nodded his head in agreement. Okay, I will definitely take you guys with me if I get the chance. You are worthy of being my good brother. Tian Chang took off his suit and found a short-sleeved shirt and trousers. He turned back to Zhang Luo and said, Zhang Luo, when we have time, let's go clothes shopping together and you can pick out some nice clothes for me. Sure, I'll go with you when I have time. Zhang Luo, you really are a good brother. Tian Chang hugged Zhang Luo's arm and said, let's go then. Meng Zhou has also finished getting dressed. The three of them left the dormitory together. The auntie in the dormitory had just finished cooking breakfast, and the aroma was wafting through the corridor. Zhang Lu had just come downstairs when the dormitory manager quickly came out of her room and handed Zhang Lu a freshly boiled egg. This is an egg boiled by the auntie. I boiled too many today, so I'll give you one. You haven't eaten yet, right? Why don't you come and eat with me? The dormitory manager greeted Zhang Lu with particular enthusiasm. Zhang Lu was a little dazed, and politely said thank you. Thanks, auntie, but no, we're going out to eat. Okay. Then you go out quickly. If you need anything, just come to me. Thank you, auntie. Zhang Luo took the egg and left the dormitory. Zhang Luo, why was the dormitory manager so enthusiastic towards you? She even gave you an egg? Zhang Luo decisively said, I don't know, I met her yesterday when I arrived. He also didn't know why the auntie was so nice to him, and even gave him food. Could it be that all dormitory managers are so nice? Tian Chang was jealous. The auntie must have seen that you are good-looking, that's why she gave you food. Why didn't she give it to me? I heard that she is an old witch, and she even reports to the counselors and leaders. The seniors from the previous year put her on the forum. Zhang Lu glanced at the egg in his hand. Really? But I think this auntie is very nice. Tian Chang shrugged, she might just be nice to you. At that moment, a Porsche pulled up in front of Building 3, and the window rolled down to reveal a seductive face. Little brother. It's Senior Shin Ran. Tian Chang ran like a thief, quickly went up to say hello, Senior, I'm Tian Chang, Zhang Luo's roommate. Shin Ran nodded. Zhang Luo got into the car and said, I'll take you out to eat today, the food in the cafeteria isn't very good. Zhang Luo walked slowly over, still holding an egg in his hand. Senior, I want to bring my roommates along, is that okay? These two are my roommates and also my good brothers. Shin Ran hesitated for a moment. Okay, get in the car. She had originally wanted to go on a date with her little junior, but now there were two more, so maybe another time. Tian Chang and Meng Zhou got into the car, and Zhang Luo sat with them in the back. Zhang Luo said, Senior, I'm not familiar with the area here, so you choose the place and I'll pay the bill, as a thank you for helping me yesterday. Shin Ran raised her eyebrows. Sure, Tianyu Hotel is good, but the prices are too high there, you probably can't afford it, so let's go somewhere else. Tianyu Hotel? Isn't that the place where Wen Ning, that female devil, bullied him? Senior, it's okay, we can go there. I earned some money from my summer job. That's really inspiring, working a summer job. Shin Ran increasingly felt that this little junior she had her eye on was very special, different from everyone else. Although he was young, she didn't mind at all. Zhang Luo accidentally glanced in the rearview mirror and always felt that this senior looked at him with a strange expression, as if she wanted to devour him. Zhang Lu slowly lowered her eyes, and Tian Chang and the two of them spoke to each other in an off-and-on manner. Tian Chang was really excited about being in close contact with his senior, and his gaze never left Shin Ran. After 10 minutes or so, the car arrived at the Tianyu Hotel. After getting out of the car, Tian Chang looked up, looking up at the towering hotel, exclaiming in awe, this is the imperial capital's #1 hotel, the Tianyu Hotel, truly luxurious. Shin Ran nodded and said, that's natural. I heard that the biggest boss seems to be a woman, the person in power of the Wen group. She is also considered her idol, and I heard that she is very young. Wen group? Jian Lu suddenly thought of Wen Ning. Could it be Wen Ning? Manager Li happened to see this scene when Jiang Lu and his entourage came in. Jiang Lu? And with a woman. This is not one of their boss Wen's people, so why is he entering with a woman? Then Manager Li secretly filmed that scene and sent it to Wen Ning. Boss Wen, this is young Master Jiang Luo, right? Wen Ning looked at the scene on the screen, her eyes growing more and more gloomy, her aura gradually decreasing, and the entire living room becoming cold and frightening. On the first day of school, he hung out with another woman and ended up in a hotel. Jiang Luo is really something. Chapter 27 Little Black House Warning. Jiang Luo just entered the private room and always felt a chill in the back. Jiang Luo, order some food. What do you like to eat? Shenran sat next to Jiang Luo, deliberately close to him, and her fingers accidentally touched his arm, so Jiang Luo quickly moved his body to the side. Although he didn't like Wen Ning, she was his girlfriend and pregnant with his child, so he couldn't let other women touch him. You order, Chang good, Mang good, you order, I'm treating today. Tian Chang glanced at the menu and frowned. Jiang Luo, this food is too expensive, a plate of stir-fried beef costs several hundred, and this plate of hairy crabs is almost 1,000, isn't this robbing people blind? I'm not ordering, you only make a little over 1,000 a month, and once it's gone, what about living expenses? Tian Chang put the menu on the table. Jiang Luo patted Tian Chang on the shoulder and said, Brother Chang, you order, it's okay, I still have some savings, enough for you to eat a meal. Tian Chang hesitated for a long time, and finally ordered the cheapest dish, shredded cucumber, which only cost 88 yuan. Jiang Luo couldn't help laughing and crying. Senior Shenran, you order, don't be polite. Okay. Shenran ordered a few relatively everyday dishes that weren't too expensive. In the end, Jiang Lu ordered a few of the most expensive dishes, even the Buddha jumps over the wall. Jiang Lu, you're crazy, this meal is going to cost thousands of dollars. Tian Chun dissuaded. It's okay, I made some money from my summer job, enough for you to eat a meal. Tian Chang nodded, okay, buddy, when I have money in the future, I'll treat you too. Shenran once again approached Jiang Luo, wanting to touch his hand, but unfortunately he didn't let her, putting his hand in his pocket. Shenran. Jiang Luo continued to distance himself from Shenran. He still had to keep himself pure for Wen Ning, and could not let anyone touch his hand. Shenran, senior, I already have a girlfriend. If you want a boyfriend, you can ask my brother. Both of them are my roommates. This is Tian Chang, the big orange. Jiang Luo directly pulled Tian Chang over to shield him from the bullets. Tian Chang was so excited and emotional that his tongue almost tied when he spoke to Shenran. Senior Shenran, I'm Jiang Luo's roommate. I'm 19 years old, and my family just runs a small business. Shenran spoke to Tian Chang for a few words, and he was so happy that he couldn't find the north. Mangzhou is a silent, depressed little prince who was very handsome but doesn't like to talk much, and just sits there quietly. During dinner, Shenran asked again, what does your girlfriend look like? Are you as beautiful as me? Is she better built than me? Jiang Lu answered honestly, my girlfriend is more beautiful than you and better built than you. Shenran snorted, really? Jiang Lu, you must be lying to me. I'll wait for the day when you break up with her. Jiang Lu took a bite of his food and said, I don't think so. Wen Ning would never let him off so easily, especially now that they had a child. Tian Chang ate with relish, finishing all the food and leaving nothing behind. After all, it was his brother's hard-earned money, and it must not be wasted. On the way back, Jiang Lu was intercepted by Lin Yawei, who gave him a box of fresh desserts. Jiang Lu pursed his lips and said, Senior Lin, I just ate. Lin Yawei smiled and said, that's okay, save it for this afternoon. I bought an extra box today, it would be a shame to throw it away. Shenran asked in a stern voice, Lin Yawei, what do you mean? It doesn't mean anything, I'm just concerned about my junior. Shenran snorted, concerned? Why haven't I seen you care about other juniors? The two seniors were on the verge of a fight, so Jiang Luo immediately stepped between them and said, Seniors Shenran and Lin Yawei, don't fight. I'm going back to the dormitory first. After saying this, Jiang Luo didn't even turn around as he quickly dragged his two roommates away. Jiang Luo, you're just too popular. The two school flower seniors almost fought over you. Jiang Luo wanted to cry, but there were no tears. It wasn't his fault for being good-looking and popular. Afternoon. Jiang Lu had just woken up when he received a phone call. Wen Ning's voice was cold and indifferent. Jiang Lu, I'm at the entrance to your school. Today is the first day of school, there are no classes, so come out quickly. Wen Ning, you're off work? Did you come here specially to pick me up? Okay, I'll be right out, just wait a few minutes. John Lu got out of bed, put on his shoes, and glanced at his phone. It was only a little after 3 p.m. Wen Ning got off work really early. Tian Chang had just woken up from his nap and asked in a daze, John Lu, where are you going? My girlfriend is here to pick me up. I'm not coming back tonight. You guys go out for dinner tonight, don't wait for me. Tian Chang was wide awake. What? Your girlfriend? Picking you up? Does she have a car? Well, your girlfriend is a few years older than me and has already graduated. I can't talk to you anymore, I'm leaving first. John Lu rushed out of the room, anxious to meet his obedient daughter. He wanted to see if his daughter had grown up today. Tian Chang and Mang Zhou looked at each other in disbelief. They had thought Jian Luo's girlfriend was a student at another school, but they had never expected her to be a working woman. They envied him, and wished they had a girlfriend who could pick them up every day. Tears of envy flowed from their mouths. On the other side, Jian Luo had already left the school gate. Today was still the first day of school, so there were not as many cars as there had been the day before. Jian Luo walked a few more steps, and in the shade of a tree, there was a long wheelbase Rolls-Royce parked. The door opened, and after Jian Luo got in, a cool breeze hit his face. Wen Ning was sitting nearby, wearing a slim-fitting black skirt, her long legs wrapped in black stockings. She exuded a faint body fragrance. Jian Luo looked at her belly, pursed his lips, and asked, why are you here so early? Wen Ning didn't say anything, picked up a tissue and wiped the sweat from Jian Luo's head. As soon as Jian Luo finished speaking, Wen Ning lifted his chin, her eyes dark and frosty. What did you do today? Her voice was flat, but it sent a shiver down Jian Luo's spine. He stammered an answer, nothing much, just went to dinner with an older female student, she helped me carry my luggage. Wen Ning's anger dissipated a little, ravaging Jian Luo's face as she continued to ask, older female student? Dinner? That's all? Well, really, my 2 roommates went with us too. Jian Lu answered sincerely, his eyes hiding nothing. Wen Ning let go of Jian Lu's face and instead took his hand. Did she touch your hand? No. The slender jade-like fingers landed on Jian Lu's Adam's apple. Although it was small, it was still there. You didn't. Tell her that you already had a girlfriend. Do you know what will happen if you go out to dinner with other women in the future? Wen Ning's eyes were dark and sickly, and she whispered in Jian Luo's ear, I'll lock you up and you won't have to go to university anymore. Is the little black room coming? Chapter 28 Wen always bullies male college students today. Jian Luo's pupils suddenly contracted, and he looked scared. You can believe me, I really didn't talk to any other girls, and I didn't let them touch my hands. Wen Ning held Jian Luo's face and kissed her gently. So obedient? Well, really, I didn't let them touch my hands, I didn't let them touch me, and I even told them that I had a girlfriend. Jian Luo looked like she was in shock, her whole body seemed dazed. Wen Ning kissed Jian Luo's lips again. I was just joking with you. What are you so scared of? How could I possibly lock you up? Jian Luo, feel your daughter. Has she grown today? Wen Ning placed Jian Luo's hand on her own belly. Jian Luo's body relaxed a little. He felt Wen Ning's smooth, flat belly and muttered, is there really a daughter of mine in here? She'll be out in 8 months. You'll be a father. Jian Lu pursed his lips. No one else even has a girlfriend, and he's going to become a father. Of course he's happy, but Wen Ning is such a terrible woman, she wants to lock him up all the time. Who has a girlfriend like this? Everyone else's girlfriend is gentle, smiling sweetly and coquettish. Jian Lu glanced again at the cold woman next to him. A woman like Wen Ning is not gentle at all, he doesn't like it, and one day, he will escape. Wen Ning, of course, had no idea what Jiang Lu was thinking, and she pressed herself against him, her fingers touching his chest. Jian Lu was young, but he already had a six-pack, and Wen Ning couldn't get enough of the feel of it. Jian Lu sat up straight and immediately took Wen Ning's hands away from his chest. Now you won't even let me touch it? Jiang Lu said seriously, Wen Ning, we're still outside, and it would be bad if someone saw us. Don't worry, the glass on this bus doesn't let people see inside from the outside, and what's more, you're my boyfriend, so you can do whatever you want. Wen Ning pounced on him again, kissing Jian Luo's blood-red ear gently. The ear turned red again. We've been together for so long, why are you still so shy? Ha? Little husband? Zhang Luo's Adam's apple rolled slightly, pushing Wen Ning away. He was angry, furious, and ashamed. What did this woman just call him? Little husband? Is he little? He's no smaller than anyone else. Shameless. It was the first time he had been called husband, and Zhang Lu was so embarrassed that he felt like smoking. Wen Ning, you. Don't call me that, I'm not your husband. Wen Ning leaned over Zhang Lu's arm and raised the corners of her lips slightly. I even have your child, don't you want to take responsibility? Of course I will, but it's not my fault. He was just a waiter at the hotel, and then this woman caught him in bed. Zhang Luo was of course angry, but Wen Ning helped him out again, and he didn't seem that angry anymore. Zhang Luo, you'll be back to stay at night. Your daughter can't see you, doesn't want to go to sleep, and won't let me sleep either. Wen Ning gently stroked her own belly and leaned into Zhang Luo's arms to coo at him, okay? Zhang Luo was caught off guard, and he didn't think this woman could coo. This was the first time he had been coaxed by a woman, and Zhang Luo was flustered. Wen Ning, I'll just stay at school for 2 days. No, not even 2 days. Your daughter misses you. Wen Ning hooked Zhang Luo's neck and straddled his arms, looking like a real demon girl. Zhang Luo was a pure college boy, where could he stand her such seduction? Hugging her waist, his Adam's apple rolled slightly, just 1 day, okay? Okay, kiss me. Zhang Luo's ears turned red as he lightly kissed the side of the woman's face. It was a kiss like a dragonfly's, and Zhang Luo felt his heartbeat quicken. How many older students did you meet at school today? 6 or 7. They were very enthusiastic, and they even helped me carry my luggage. Zhang Luo glanced at Wen Ning, but she didn't say anything. Wen Ning narrowed her eyes slightly. Does she want you to be her boyfriend? Zhang Luo nodded, well, but I rejected her. I already told her that I have a girlfriend. Don't worry, I will definitely not hold hands with another girl. Wen Ning was amused and laughed. She really is a little prude. So cute. Wen Ning hugged Zhang Luo's face and kissed him again, making him blush, his ears, and his whole body. Zhang Luo gently pushed Wen Ning, accidentally touching the softness of her chest again, and feeling her fingers go numb. She immediately withdrew her hands, placed them behind her back, and whispered, Wen Ning, can you please stop kissing me? Who told you to look so handsome, and you're also my type, is that not allowed? Ha! Zhang Luo was kissed and touched by Wen Ning, and there was simply no way to stop this female demon. Su Qi drew the corners of her mouth. Wen always doesn't behave like a human today. Bullying a male college student. Zhang Luo had a look of resignation on his face. Wen Ning finally kissed enough and stroked Zhang Luo's hand. It's the weekend, let's go see Grandma. Okay. Wen Ning actually remembered Grandma. This female demon actually wasn't that bad. Except for liking to kiss and touch him. When they got home, Zhang Luo received a message. Tian Chang, Zhang Luo, aren't you coming back tonight? Spending it with your girlfriend? Then, a treacherous emoji pack was sent. Well, I'm not going back. Have fun, have a good time, and don't make a baby. Zhang Lu was silent, wondering what to do if he already had one. Wen Ning asked with concern, Zhang Lu, I'll have the kitchen prepare chicken soup for you tonight. Is the food at school good? The food at school is okay, not as good as at home, but it's not bad. Wen Ning rubbed Zhang Lu's face and said, that's good. If you don't like the food at school, I'll have the maid bring you food every day. I can't let my little husband go hungry. Zhang Luo shook his head and said, Wen Ning, don't go to all that trouble, I'll just eat the school meals. Sister, you're so biased. You've never asked the maid to bring me meals, but you're actually doing it for Zhang Luo. Wen Wan cried out in grievance. You almost always eat at home, so why do you need to have it delivered? Wen Wan muttered, now my place in your heart has been taken by Zhang Luo, sister, you don't love me anymore. You love Zhang Luo the most. Wen Ning nodded calmly and said, you're right. Wen Wan was so angry that she was about to cry. I'm going to run away from home. Wen Ning crossed her arms and said, okay, shall we go now? I'll tell the kitchen not to cook your dinner. Wen Wan stamped her feet in anger. At that moment, Wen Ning suddenly started to dry heave, and Zhang Luo immediately helped her to the bathroom and patted her back gently. Wen Ning, are you okay? Why are you throwing up again? Chapter 29:29 For the sake of his obedient daughter, he endured it. Sister, what's wrong with you? Why have you been vomiting for the past few days? Are you? Wen Wan looked at Wen Ning's stomach. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Wen Ning looked up and said, "You've already guessed, haven't you? I'm pregnant, 2 months along." Wen Wan was shocked and directly lost his voice. He moved his lips. "Sister, what on earth are you doing? Whose child is it? Don't tell me it's Zhang Luo's." Wen Ning replied decisively, "Yes." "Do you know how serious the consequences will be if Grandpa finds out about this? He wants you to marry the young master of the Gu family." "The young master of the Gu family?" Jian Lu silently took these words to heart. "He is Wen Ning's marriage partner?" "That's right, he is not worthy of Wen Ning at all." Wen Ning said coldly, not interested. "I'm pregnant with Jian Luo's child, and I will only marry him in the future. You don't need to worry about this. Come directly to the company to work after graduation." Wen Wan whispered, "Sister, you got pregnant before marriage, and you can't hide it. Grandpa will definitely punish you if he finds out, and you might not even be able to keep the CEO position. Why don't you just take care of the baby now?" Zhang Luo's fingers tightened slightly, and he looked at Wen Ning without blinking. He had no right to make decisions for Wen Ning. However, he still hoped that Wen Ning would keep the baby, his first child. Even if he had to go scavenging after Wen Ning gave birth, he would raise the child. "Sister, can I go to the hospital with you tomorrow?" Wen Wan held Wen Ning's hand and dissuaded her. Although his sister would be there to take the brunt of everything, this was really a big deal. Wen Ning let go of Wen Wan's hand and said in a flat tone, "I will keep the baby. Xiao Wan, don't worry. The old man is over there. I'll talk to him." Zhang Luo stammered, "Wen Ning, why don't I go with you?" Wen Ning let out a low laugh. "How dare you this time? Aren't you afraid that my grandfather will beat you?" "I'm not afraid. At most, he'll just beat me up a bit," Zhang Luo muttered to himself. "You don't need to go with me. Just study hard. In the future, if I'm kicked out of the house, I can still go to you." Zhang Luo held Wen Ning's hand and promised, "Don't worry, I will definitely make money to support you and the baby in the future." "Good, I'll be waiting." Wen Ning's pale fingers gently stroked Zhang Luo's face. "I'm waiting for that day." Wen Wan looked at Zhang Luo, her anger rising. "It's you, you made my sister pregnant." Zhang Luo lowered her eyes and whispered, "I didn't mean it." Wen Ning protected Zhang Luo behind her back. "Wen Wan, don't make things difficult for him, it's my own fault." "Sister, you've already been bewitched by Zhang Luo." Wen Wan was so angry that she didn't even eat dinner and quickly went upstairs. Zhang Luo was so young, only 18 or 19 years old, how could she possibly take care of her sister and child? Wen Ning took Zhang Luo's hand and told Wen Wan not to take her words to heart, and we should eat. "Okay." This time, Zhang Luo even uncharacteristically picked food for Wen Ning, saying, "You're pregnant, eat some light food." "Okay, you feed me." Zhang Luo blushed as she fed Wen Ning. Seeing as the female devil was pregnant, she would let it go. This was Zhang Luo's first time feeding his girlfriend, and his hands were unsteady, so he dropped some food on Wen Ning's chest. He awkwardly touched the tip of his nose and said, "Sorry, I didn't mean to do that." "Didn't mean to do it? So he did mean to do it?" Wen Wan's fingers continued to tease Zhang Luo. No, I'm really full. You eat slowly, I'm going to read for a while. I'm going to get a double degree." Zhang Luo sat on the sofa and picked up a book at random. Wen Ning slowly approached and sat down next to Zhang Luo. "Reading? Not eating? Well, I want to get a double degree, so you go ahead and eat. Don't worry about me, I'm full." Wen Ning laughed softly, and the book was in the wrong hand. Zhang Luo then noticed that his book was upside down, so he quickly turned it over, almost tripping over his toes in his embarrassment. "I didn't see it just now." Wen Ning threw the book in Zhang Luo's hand away, sat in his arms, raised the corners of her pretty eyes, and asked, "What book is this? Is it better than me?" Zhang Luo shook his head honestly. "Since it's not as good as that, why not look at me?" Wen Ning hooked Zhang Luo's neck and hugged him to the bed. "I want a rest." Zhang Luo obediently carried his girlfriend upstairs, gently placed her on the bed, and said, "You sleep." This female devil is really becoming more and more clingy these days, and she wants him to carry her. Doesn't she have long legs? For the sake of his obedient daughter, he endured it. "Sweetie, Daddy misses you." Zhang Luo fell asleep holding Wen Ning in his arms. He slept very well that night. The next day, Jiang Luo finally got rid of Wen Ning and returned to school. Changge, open the door, I'm back. Tiancheng opened the door and looked up and down at Jiang Luo, smiling with a face full of ripples. How come you're back so early? I thought you were going to wait until the afternoon. You had a fun night with your girlfriend yesterday. How did it feel? It was okay. Wen Ning has become clingier since she got pregnant, and she spent the whole night in his arms, unable to get away. Tiancheng asked in a low voice, Okay, Jiang Lu, did you and your girlfriend have sex? Jiang Lu blushed and said, What are you thinking? Of course not, am I that kind of person? It was obvious that Wen Ning forced him. I'm just warning you to be careful. I heard that a schoolmate got pregnant. What? It's a very pretty schoolmate who got pregnant. I don't know whose baby it is, but she's already planning to drop out of school. Jiang Luo was puzzled. Where did you hear this news? Of course it's gossip. I'm in a group full of gossip. Jiang Luo, do you want to come in? I'll pull you in. And that Jiang Xiao, I heard he's already with the sophomore beauty queen candidate. Jiang Lu was shocked again. Didn't the semester start only yesterday? How come Jiang Jia already has a girlfriend? Who is this Jiang Xiao? He's the youngest son of the Jiang family, rich and good-looking, of course he's popular. That beautiful female school flower is gorgeous, with a great figure. I've seen her photos, Jiang Lu, let me show you. Tiancheng pulled up the photos on his phone, white dress, chestnut long hair slightly curled, delicate features, she really is very beautiful. But compared to Wen Ning, she is still far from it. Jiang Luo, what do you think? Isn't she incredibly beautiful, with a great figure and long legs? Jiang Luo casually said, she is just a so-so. Wen Ning has a better figure than her, with a thin waist and longer legs. Don't ask him how he knows. Of course it's because I touch her every day. Chapter 30 My girlfriend is a big baby. SOSO? Jiang Luo, how beautiful is your girlfriend? You're not tempted by such a pretty schoolmate? She's okay. My girlfriend is much prettier than her. Jiang Luo tidied up the table and took out his computer to continue studying. Jiang Luo, there's no class today, and there's only evening study hall tonight. It seems like a sign-in. We don't have military training. What are you doing? Tiancheng walked over to Jiang Luo. There were some data charts on the computer, which made him feel dizzy. I'm going to apply for a double degree and apply to the finance department at the end of my freshman year. I'll go. A double degree, no wonder it's you work hard. Tiancheng patted Jiang Luo on the shoulder. He didn't have such big dreams, he just wanted to make some money now. Jiang Luo, I heard from a little bird that the director is coming to choose new actors and actresses in a few days, and I might be chosen. I must seize this opportunity. Jiang Lu casually asked, so soon? Haven't we just started school? Tiancheng sat next to Jiang Lu, nodded with his hand on the back of his head, and said, well, we don't have many classes in the acting department. I heard that some sophomore seniors have already left school to join film crews. I also want to work and earn money as soon as possible. First, I need to fix my face. Jiang Lu, show me what kind of hairstyle suits me. Jiang Luo held his chin and looked carefully. Why don't you go to the hospital and get a facelift? But plastic surgery costs money, and I don't have any. I'll wait until I make some money, and for now I'll just get a haircut. Freshman registration is tonight, and I'm going to shock everyone. Tiancheng started messing with his hair again, while Jiang Luo silently looked at the computer and continued to study. Evening. Tiancheng finally fixed his hair, looked very satisfied in the mirror, and patted Jiang Luo on the back. Luo, look at me, look at me. Then, Jiang Luo looked up and saw a scene that shocked him. Tiancheng's hair had been combed into a bang, and the hair stood up, like a super saiyan, which was a bit hard to describe. Jiang Luo drew back the corners of his mouth. Chinga, is this the hair you've been messing with all day? Meng Zhou laughed out loud, covering his stomach. Ha ha ha, Changge, is this an explosion head? It's so explosive, the rate of people looking back on the street must be 100%. Is it not good? I think it's okay. Jiang Lu suddenly asked, Changge, do you still want to fall in love? Do you want to find a girlfriend in college? Tiancheng nodded as if he were mashing garlic, thinking, of course I want to. So, take my advice and change your hair back, otherwise, you'll never fall in love in your life. Tiancheng quickly changed his hair back and put on a clean shirt, which he arranged without a single wrinkle. Jiang Luo stood up and said, let's go. After the evening study session, I have to go back to my girlfriend. Most importantly, I want to see if his good girl has grown up. Luor, aren't you going to change your clothes? It's the first day of classes, and there might be a lot of pretty girls in our department. No, I already have a girlfriend. Wen Ning is a female devil. If she finds out that he's talking to another girl, what if she locks him up in the manor? Won't he be unable to go to college? Tian Chang continued, Zhang Luo, you're really devoted. When are you going to introduce us to your girlfriend? Does she have a house? Yes. Tian Chang's tears of envy flowed from his mouth. Your girlfriend has a car and a house, so you can just move in. How big is the house? Zhang Lu thought of the Haitian manor, which was quite large as it stretched as far as the eye could see. Zhang Lu, I really envy you. When will I be able to find such a good girlfriend, with a car and a house, who is also nice to me? I will be content with that for the rest of my life. Zhang Lu shrugged. Envy him? His girlfriend is a drama queen. She wants to lock him in the darkroom whenever she feels like it, and doesn't let him out. Do you want this sickly girlfriend? Class 1, 2024 Acting Department. When Zhang Luo and the others arrived, many people had already arrived. There were a lot of girls in the acting department, all fair-skinned and beautiful, very pretty. As soon as Zhang Luo entered, everyone's attention fell on him. Is this our class? He's so handsome, I wonder if he has a girlfriend. I'll ask later and add him on WeChat. He's tall and handsome, looks quite young, and I don't think he has a girlfriend. I'll give it a try. He's so handsome, even more so than the school hunk in our third year. I really love him. Tian Chang was embarrassed by all the girls staring at him, so he touched the tip of his nose and lightly touched Zhang Luo's arm. Luor, are all these people looking at me? Am I that handsome tonight? Well, Chinga, you're very handsome tonight. Tian Chang was embarrassed by the praise. Could it be that he was about to get a girlfriend? He was so excited that perhaps some girls would come and ask him for WeChat. Zhang Luo and the others sat in the corner at the back, while Tian Chang waited excitedly for someone to ask him for WeChat. Sure enough, it wasn't long before some girls came. Luor, Jor, look, someone's come to ask me for WeChat. What do you think I should do? Should I give it to them? Zhang Luo. Meng Zhou. Tian Chang excitedly tidied his hair and prepared to speak, when the girls came directly to Zhang Luo. Classmate, can I add you on WeChat? After all, we are in the same class, let's add each other on WeChat. Several girls surrounded Zhang Luo directly, and said, I want to add you too, can you add me? Tian Chang was directly flustered, because they were not looking at him, but at Zhang Luo, which made him feel happy for nothing. Zhang Luo looked up and said, sorry, I already have a girlfriend. You have a girlfriend? You're not lying to us, are you? Zhang Luo said, really, my girlfriend is jealous. But she's also in the same class as you, so there's no harm in adding her to WeChat. Zhang Luo really couldn't handle it anymore, so he added them all, a total of more than 10 female classmates, and he felt dizzy when he saw them. Zhang Luo was colorblind, but he wasn't colorblind when it came to Wen Ning, and he remembered her at first sight. Several female classmates added Zhang Luo to WeChat, and they all retreated like a flood. Tian Chang was alone, slumped over his desk, depressed. Chang Ge, what's wrong? Tian Chang wanted to cry, but there were no tears. I thought you were going to ask for my WeChat, but there's no one here. Even if you give me one of the girls, there's still no one here. Chang Ge, look, here comes another one. She's pretty, maybe she's here for you. Zhang Lu patted Tian Chang on the arm, and Tian Chang immediately perked up. Could it be that she's here for him? Maybe it is. But the next second, the female classmate walked over to Meng Zhou and shyly said, can I add you on WeChat? Classmate. Tian Chang. Total meltdown.